I have worked with over 300 plus agency owners and B2B companies, and I've scaled agencies past $100,000 a month on multiple occasions. And if that's not enough, this video you're about to watch was co-written by my co-founder, Matthew Larson, who recently scaled his agency from zero to over 900K per month, $900,000 a month in under 12 months. So we are about to cover some pretty juicy stuff. In this video, I'm going to give you a systematic guide on how to reach $1 million per year in profit with a simple service-based business. And I'm talking about profit here, not revenue. I'm talking about getting to $1 million per year into your pocket, because I know you can just, you can talk about revenue all you want, but if that's not money going into your bank account, it doesn't matter much to me. So I'm going to reveal some of the stuff that people charge 5, 10, 15K for just because I kind of feel like it and I feel like it's necessary. We are going to cover everything there is to know about scaling a service-based business. We're going to cover how to position your offer, why it's a mistake to only sell a recurring service, the exact sales funnel Matt used to scale to over 900K per month in 12 months, and we're going to cover how to get your leads as close to the finish line as you possibly can before they ever end up on a sales call. So a lot of people talk about talking with unqualified leads, having to scale, really reliant on sales. We're going to cover how to get rid of that. And because I know this is a long video, I've got an insane bonus for the people that stick around to the end. Cool. Let's get into it. You've done a good job so far to click on a long training that's clearly a raw, unedited training. So just keep it up, stay off the cat videos for another couple of minutes and just lock in, because this is going to be one of the most valuable things you've probably ever seen. You are about to watch the literal exact roadmap that we have used to scale agencies over and over again. And just because it's free does not mean we are not revealing absolute source in this video. So watch the whole thing, take notes, get your notepad out, and do not treat it as not valuable just because it's free. I've literally spent hours and hours and hours creating this. I cannot stress enough, it is absolute heat. And if you think it sucks, just let me know and you can berate me in the comments and tell me how shit it is. This is exactly what 10x'd Angus's business in basically 6 months, exactly what Brian used to hit 30K a month in 90 days, and exactly what some of my clients are using to scale from 600K a month to 1 mil a month. So whether you're looking to get your next 10 clients or your next 100 clients, it doesn't matter. The stuff inside this video is literally exactly what we use on an every single day basis with hundreds of companies. So stick around, put your feet up, get your notes out, and tuck in. And luckily for you, if you're already scrolling down to the comments or looking to click off the video, we also cover some stuff about productivity and focus, because that is so important in today's world. So if you're already struggling to focus, this video is even more important for you. So like I said, lock in, take some notes, and enjoy the ride. Okay, here we go. We are talking about how to get so damn rich that you don't even care about money anymore. It's a pretty good spot to be in. We're not going to gatekeep anything. And more specifically, we're talking about a systematic guide on how to hit $1 million a year in take-home profit with a simple service-based business in 2024. And you can see here, we've got Mr. Michael Jordan. So this is pretty serious stuff. I would like to think pretty serious MJ stuff. So lock in, like I said. And like I said earlier as well, this is co-written by myself and Matthew Larson of 1000xleads.com. If you don't know who Matt Larson is, you can also check his channel. And before we get into things, I want to just say this is going to be without getting famous. This is going to be without becoming a guru. This is without getting screwed by a guru and buying a $50,000 course when you don't really need to do that. This is also going to be without completely destroying your profit margins as you scale. And basically what you need to know with that is that most marketing agencies above 100K a month, 200K a month do about 10 to 20% in margin. So it's not really that captivating to go ahead and make 100K a month on paper, but then go ahead and take home 10K a month. Like you see these guys on Twitter, on Instagram, etc. They're making, 100K a month, 200K a month, 300, 400, 500K a month, but they're not actually making that much money. So even when you make that amount, you need to know how to continually take home profit rather than just stay on that agency rat race. This is a really big problem in the space right now. Like I said, I've talked to hundreds and hundreds of agencies and worked with over 300 directly, whether that be on a one-to-one basis done for you or consulting. And this is a massive problem. So that's what we're solving today. And this is also without having terrible client results as you scale, which is really, it's a symptom of a couple of things that we're going to cover in this video. So like I said, lock in and take some notes. Before we do get into it though, we'll cover some credentials. So this document is based on the combination of insights from myself and my business partner, Matt. Here is why Matt is qualified. This is from his perspective. So this document, based on that, in the past 8 years, Matt has scaled 3 agency exits, with 2 of them being multi-7 figures in cash and the other one being over 10 million in cash. The first 2, he was a minority or junior partner, but he owned 100% of the previous one that sold for over 10 mil. This case study will show you how he went from 0 to 900K a month in recurring revenue in under 12 months. He did so with a landing page and CRO agency that served e-commerce stores, mostly on Shopify. And also something to note is that the 900K is just MRR. There's quite a bit of one-time revenue that doesn't really count as MRR, but we'll just call it the MRR. He owned 100% of it and ran it at over 50% margins, although he didn't run it for that long because obviously you kind of scale up and then sell it, and that's just kind of how things go. But you can also check out his YouTube channel, like I mentioned before, Matt Larson, 1000x Leads, just over 10,000 subscribers. He's got me pipped on that, so I guess I'll just have to eat that for now. But hopefully this video is going to get me a little bit closer. And by the way, while I remember, if you want this document, so if you want the entire document, just click the link down below and you can download it for free. So don't even worry about that. Next, here is why I'm qualified. So I've been a partner in agencies who have achieved the following results. So 15K a month to 100K a month in 7 months. I've used a client, 10K a month to 50K a month in 120 days. Stripe Copy, 0 to 22K a month in 120 days. That's major. 100K a month to 130K a month in 3 months. Digiceptual, 0 to 30K a month in 90 days. Viral Bangers, 0 to 40K in 14 days. That was a B2C offer, and I only did the launch. And then 0 to 80K a month, Softron Solutions in 6 months. That was my top revenue month. And also, like I mentioned, I've worked with 300 plus agencies and B2B companies in varying capacities, and eventually decided basically to go all in on one thing, and we'll cover that a bit more in the second, and that is 1000x Leads. So the dynamic here that we're talking about is kind of like Suits, where I'll be Mike Ross, except less of a fraud, hopefully, and Matt would be Harvey Specter, although I do think I'm much cooler than Matt. That's a story for another day. There are over 150 businesses inside that right now, doing combined 215 million per year. We've helped clients 2, 3, and 10x their business in 6 to 12 months using the strategies we're about to cover. So this is all stuff that's been proven over and over again. In terms of who this is going to work for, so this is typically for established businesses that are anywhere from 30K a month to 1 mil a month, who want to put more money back into their pocket rather than just kind of being in that agency rat race, like I mentioned. So you might take home some good revenue, but you're probably frustrated no matter what you do, stuck in this rat race of signing more clients, and they're never really banking a lot of profit so you can reach freedom. And this is also going to help you if you're around 10 to 50K per month to help you understand how to avoid the trap of making 500K a month in revenue and then taking home 30K a month in profit. Yes, this is a real thing. It gets it to a point in a lot of agencies where their revenue looks really, really good. But when you talk to their founders about their books, they might as well have never scaled up. You might as well have just stayed at 30K a month and been a freelancer for some people. But we're talking about actually making money here. So if that's you and that's what you want to hear about, then stick around. And if you're below those revenue levels, this presentation is going to basically help you build it right the first time. So before you buy any stupid 997 courses, just go through this and save yourself the headache of all the BS. Hopefully this is really helpful. And either way, this presentation is really just about profit. That's what I'm thinking about every day. That's what I like writing about. That's what I like talking about. And that's basically what I think about all day, every day. What I don't like is posting Stripe screenshots of revenue, and then in reality, the person who posted is just really, really broke because their expenses are ridiculously high. So this is really about wealth creation and sort of banking profit rather than impressing beginners on Twitter or Instagram. It's not going to be easy, but if you're afraid of a little bit of work, then it's probably not going to be perfect for you. This is going to take a little bit of work, but like I said, the proof is in the pudding, and if you think it's stupid, just basically look at the process and you'll be able to see that it's not exactly that stupid in my opinion. So in terms of the lay of the land, ever since Tai Lopez brought social media marketing agencies onto the scene in about 2014, a lot has changed. A lot of things have come and gone. So Facebook ads went from being basically free to being a little bit more challenging. Cold outreach went from being a complete blue ocean to being almost impossible. And my inbox went from being relatively clear to now being filled with the same shitty scripts that some idiot has told people to send. And basically, it's gone from a time from where it was pretty easy to get clients, where to now, most businesses have had a terrible experience with agencies that completely screwed them over. The result of that is that it's harder to scale, it's harder to put cash in your pocket, it's harder to build trust with clients. There's a bigger desire to pivot to other vehicles like e-com, SaaS, AI, or whatever the new opportunity people on YouTube are talking about these days. And gurus basically say you need to be an AI chatbot growth partner because that's better than running an agency, allegedly. Really, all this tells us is that it's not as easy as it used to be agency-wise. In 2014, basically any 15-year-old could run a Facebook ads, offer for their local cafe, and it'd be pretty easy to get them to say yes. It was such a blue ocean that it was almost, even just running Facebook ads was a great idea, great offer. Then you compare that to now. Most people use some ridiculous, I'll make you $500K in 2 days, or I'll give you my left kidney, or you don't pay type offer. It's kind of ridiculous. So you can see the market is getting a bit tougher and a bit more sophisticated, and it presents a problem for agencies, because anyone who's kind of average kind of struggles to make more money. They kind of are in trouble. Catch the typo there. The companies that know how to generate leads and systematically convert cold traffic are going to the top. They're rising up, and everyone else is kind of trending towards the bottom. If you think about agencies, and this is a little bit off the document right now, if you think about the agencies that who have grown really well, a lot of the time it's either they get a lot of referrals or they have a massive personal brand and they kind of get famous, but you don't really see people being able to scale agencies on cold traffic reliably too often. But the ones that do become the top 1%. And what's going to happen is it's going to eventually end up that the top 1% who can do this generate 99% of the profit. And then basically just like in the regular world, the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. It's not quite the case yet. There's still a great opportunity to start an agency, but it slowly progresses towards this day by day, week by week, month by month, year by year. Kind of just gets harder over time as more people start their businesses. So you can blame it on the low barrier to entry of a service-based business, because obviously anyone can start a service-based business with no cash investment, or you can kind of blame it on the gurus who kind of just rinsed the hell out of the entire model by promoting it. Personally, I don't really care. I just want to find the solution that's going to make the most money. And not money like revenue screenshots for my Instagram story, so I can flex on my distant family members and randoms on the internet. I mean, cash in my bank so I don't have to do regular person stuff. But there is a problem. Most agencies don't make much profit. So like I mentioned, a common problem with agency owners is that they take home revenue, $500K a month, but never really be even that close to that amount of profit. So let's say you have one business partner, and let's say you have 30% margins, which is not uncommon. That's actually quite high. And let's say you do $500K a month times your 30% margin, and you have $150,000 per month. Divide that by 2, you have $75K profit per month for each partner. Now that's a lot of money. But the thing is, even though you take home on paper $500K a month, you're still less than $1 million per year in personal income. So usually takes years, huge amounts of stress to reach $500K a month, but then you only get to do $75K a month in income. And that's still being generous with that 30% profit margin, while most are actually below that. So some people can hear that and think, well, if that's the case, it's not a very good business model. Meanwhile, Matt scaled to $900K per month in 12 months while maintaining 50+% margins. So you can see most people are doing it this way, but the real best way of doing it is the other way. So it's like, that's what we're covering in this video. A lot of people do it the wrong way, but if you just make a few key tweaks, the agency model just completely wipes the floor with everything else. Because when you look at things like, is there more money in SaaS or software? Well, not really, because SaaS requires so much product development and huge budgets to grow. And then not only that, founders usually just take a small salary and then only make money on the exit. Then on top of that, if you do raise money, your equity gets diluted and you have to pay back your investors before you even get paid on the exit. So for example, one of my clients raised over 8 figures in venture capital. He takes a small salary each month. And then in reality, he's kind of described as wealthy on paper, poor in reality, because his company's worth a lot, but he is not. So for him to make substantial money on the exit, he's actually going to have to go ahead and sell it for far more money than what he raised in the first place. So even, if he wants to get even remotely wealthy, he has to grow a multi 8-figure or 9-figure business from scratch, which is very, very difficult, and also not get paid much in the process. Then the other thing a lot of people do is e-com. So is there more money in e-com? Well, no, the margins in e-com are even worse than agency, and really the best way to make money there is with a huge exit as well. So it's quite stressful to manage the cash flow cycles on the journey, especially if you've never done it before. And I'm not saying either of these things are bad, e-com or anything else, but it's really, really damn hard. And again, it's kind of the same thing with everything. If you do it the right way, there's a lot of money, but if you're not that skilled at it, it's kind of over. But next, is there more money in an info product? Maybe, but you need a really good track record to sell an info product. If you haven't run a big company or achieved remarkable results, it's probably better to run something else first, build a big company, and then sell info later. There's nothing against that, but it is quite hard. As someone who's sold info products before, you need kind of a unique edge. You need a reliable way of getting traffic, high enough LTV of a customer to be able to afford that traffic. It's really a bit of a pain. And to make $1 million per year, It's not really any of that stuff. It's just kind of simple stuff that's just being really good. New kids come on the block all the time with fancy names, different models, all this stuff. Nothing really ever changes the fact that selling a service is the best way to make $1 million a year in personal income. There's nothing that comes close to the cash flow and exit potential of an agency. It's just that most people don't understand the exit potential because they're doing it wrong. And that was the exact same as me. I was doing it wrong until I met Matt, and I kind of got educated, to be honest. Is it the complete blue ocean that it was a decade ago? Not really. Is it still the simplest way to make money? Yes, it is. You can scale an agency as big as you want. It's just been proven time and time again. It's not really just a cash flow vehicle. Like some people say, it's a cash flow vehicle before my next thing, but it's really the cash flow vehicle. What else are you going to do other than deliver a service for someone to make your first money? And like I said, really the only reason people don't exit agencies is because most of the agencies that are getting built right now are not worth owning. If you don't have the right setup, it literally sucks. Agencies suck. Talk to agency owners and they'll say, you know, I'm sick of my clients. I hate this. And it's because they don't have a business that's worth owning. So what we're talking about in this video is building it the right way so you don't make the same mistakes that so many people, including myself, have done in the past. That's why I'm so confident about this process, because it is such a common mistake. There's very few agency owners that set themselves up the right way. And this is why so many people either pivot, quit early, or just kind of run their business in a way that they hate. So like I said, 100% transparently, it's going to suck if you do it wrong. I guarantee you that. I know a lot of big agencies where the founder's taking home 10 to 30K a month. Might not sound bad if you're a beginner and you're below that level, but you can imagine being at 300K a month, 400K a month, and you take home 1/10 of that. It's pretty brutal because you're working really, really hard. So you want to get rewarded for that work. So the goal of this presentation is not only to show you how to build an agency the right way, but also to show you how to make more cash, put that cash in your pocket, and avoid the common mistakes that most agencies make. And the ideal outcome is that you build an agency that is such a cash flow machine that you don't even want to sell it. You want to own a business that is so valuable that it's not worth selling at any multiple. And you want to basically have it help you live the way you want to live, which is really important. So this is going to cover some new information, but it's not really the goal to just dump info on you, although this is a long training. It's really more about rearranging the puzzle pieces so you have a more efficient company and you can make more profit. Because if you think about profit, it's less about doing some new whiz bang thing, and it's more about just making some key tweaks that will then obviously allow you to make more profit. And to do that, we must understand why most agencies don't make as much profit as they should. So we're going to cover all of that stuff in the next few minutes. Again, before we get into it, a lot of people are usually curious about my background. So my name is Leo Moore, and in the last few years, I've been pretty obsessed with growing businesses. It's kind of like the only stuff that I do. A few short years ago, I was stuck in uni with less than 1K in my bank, and I was door dashing at night for some extra cash. I was dollar cost averaging into the Luna coin, if you guys know crypto, and I thought that was my moonshot. I was in a degree I really hated. I was super, super bored. I was always a good student in school, but something about the environment on uni campus was weird, especially in Melbourne after we had those COVID lockdowns and that sort of stuff. But like I said, I was trying to DoorDash, I was getting my money up, I was dollar cost averaging into Luna, and I was in sales after that. So I realized I had to kind of do something a little bit different than DoorDashing into Luna, especially after that fully crashed. So I ended up doing sales full time. And then once I got into sales, I got pretty good at it pretty quickly. So just about in under a year. And I eventually said, screw it, and started partnering with agencies to help them grow. And then in a short span of time, we grew some agencies pretty nicely, like Jake, who went from 15K a month to 100K a month in 7 months. And the problem with that, though, was because I was so involved with all of these agencies, my focus was completely destroyed trying to troubleshoot all of them all at the same time. So running them all at once was kind of pretty silly. And then obviously because of the model and the way I set it up, was very reliant on me, which is, like I said, I've made a lot of these mistakes and I'm about to talk about millions of times over. So hopefully I can help you avoid that. I think Hormozy had said something like, yeah, I was running 9 businesses for a while and then everything was always just on fire all the time. And then as soon as I learned the trade of focus, it started working and I was like, oh, maybe I should just do that. So I ended up doing that. And I pretty much knew if I kept going that way, I would never be able to reach my potential. And then around that time, I was kind of weighing up, do I want to fully partner with one of my clients? Do I want to sell a productized service? What am I going to do? And that was when I met my co-founder, Matt, because I was thinking, how am I going to get to this next level? And then I met Matt. He was running a similar funnel to what I was using for my clients to grow them, except he was running it for himself. And then I found out about the results he had gotten. And at that point, I knew exactly what we had to do. I pitched him on partnering up and turning his knowledge into a system that we could use to repeatedly scale businesses. And the rest was history. And because he had a non-compete that prevented him from running another agency, I had recently decided to go all in on one thing. Basically, the timing was really perfect. And 150 clients later, we've made the process pretty damn good. And at this point, I've worked with over 300 plus businesses and gotten insights on a lot of stuff that works. And unfortunately, a lot of stuff that doesn't work based on experience. So it's good at times and it's bad at times, but we learn and we make the content to give to people for free. So that's good stuff. Our clients currently do combined 265 mil a year across 120 different niches and a few dozen countries. And like I said, Matt's built a couple of agencies over the last few years. Don't need to cover that again. But yeah, it's been good to go back and forth with him and discuss what we were doing to grow each of our companies. There are a lot of similarities, but also some differences. And in the time we've worked together on this process, we've basically been able to distill each other's learnings into what we call the encyclopedia for growing a service-based business. It's really just me calling it that, but we'll continue and just pretend that didn't happen. So the key pillars that Matt used are really three things that you need to be successful and actually make money with really anything in 2024. So it's not really some stupid gimmick or hack or anything like that. These are just straight facts from the businesses I've worked with and the 2,000 that my co-founder has worked with, the 3 exits he's had. Really, everyone likes to act like it's so complex. It's really not. I would never, ever, ever suggest that complexity is a good thing. It's really just simple tweaks that you can make to give a much higher output. So without further ado, let's get into it. I'll just make that little tweak there on the camera. Section 0 is fundamentals. So a fundamental is a central or primary rule or principle on which something is based, or on which something is based. So here's an insight that would have saved years of times. There are 4 fundamental problems with every service-based business or agency. Number 1 is that not enough people know who you are. So why is this a problem? Here's why. If nobody knows you exist, how are you going to make money? You're probably not going to make money if no one knows you exist, because you have to sell stuff to someone. Another question that I like to ask is, if you asked one of your clients, how many people do you know that deliver the same service as us? How many could they list? This is really important because a lot of people think my service is so saturated, and meanwhile, their clients probably couldn't even list 3 service providers in their niche. So you think your service is saturated, but it's actually completely untrue. Your ideal customers are begging for a reliable service that can deliver good stuff. They just don't trust anyone or know anyone. Most of the time, you know all of your competitors, which makes you hyper aware of them, but your ideal customers have no idea. They're busy running their business in their industry, worried about their competitors. They don't know all these agencies. So when they need help with their emails, landing pages, sales processes, etc., most of the time, they don't even know where to look. They don't even know where to start. They might ask around their network, look online, or maybe you're lucky enough to outreach to them when they're looking to hire. But the point here is they don't have a solution to their problem because they don't know who you are. They don't know anyone who can help them. And they, like I said, they don't know you, ideally, yet. So the reason this is important is because people only work with people they know, like, and trust. So that's why referrals work so well. The problem is that if you've been in business for 30 years, or, unless you've been in business for 30 years or have a massive network, a lot of the time you have to put in effort to get people to know who you are, and you have to expand your surface area and sort of make more people know you. That's what advertising is. Some people do this by sending a lot of cold emails, actively networking, or doing direct outreach. But oftentimes that's not really efficient enough because people don't just know you because you emailed them, and they definitely don't trust you. Going to events can be a good way to get clients. It's really reliable if you can be traveling around constantly and if there are enough events popping up left and right, which there kind of aren't. And then if you're pitching someone a ridiculous or you don't pay offer on a cold email, trying to get them to buy your recurring service, it's kind of a waste of time because they're not going to trust you even more. They're going to actually lose trust. And then, like I said, events are pretty good, but you can't really spend every Thursday at a conference because you wouldn't be getting any actual work done, and you can't really rely on them to pop up all the time. The real truth is that you kind of need a holistic marketing funnel to get a lot of people to know who you are. Once you have that in place, it's kind of like clients fall from the sky, which sounds pretty BS, but it's genuinely what happens. People say stuff like, hey, I'm not sure where I found you, but I saw your ads or something a few months ago. I joined your email list. Then when I needed help with my email deliverability, I thought I should just book a call. It's kind of like they just feel like they know you because you have so much stuff available. But this would be completely impossible if you rely on one channel, you have no conversion mechanisms, you have no content, because these things kind of only happen when you are everywhere, when you have a presence everywhere. Right now, most agencies just kind of pop up on an email inbox, or they send one outreach message and then they're kind of never seen again. Or they'll be somewhere deep in the YouTube Explore page getting 30 views, but that's not going to work. You need all the pieces to have a proper funnel. If something's missing, it's wrong. So if it's kind of like a car. Like if you had a steering wheel, an engine, and some seats, it doesn't really matter if you don't have any wheels. Like you need wheels to go anywhere. You need all the stuff. Every piece of the puzzle fits together to capture the highest amount of leads, nurture them as consistently as possible, and convert as many of them as possible into paying clients. So that's a really important fundamental. If no one knows who you are not making money. Number two, the second problem is, quite simple, not enough leads. Why you need to solve is quite obvious. If you don't have enough leads, you can't really grow your business. If you want to get 10 clients a month and you only have 6 leads, the math isn't really going to work. So the ability to generate leads has this kind of flywheel where when you have more leads, you're less needy, then becomes easier to sell, which means you don't need to take on nightmare clients. You have more clients, which means you'll have more referrals. Then you can charge higher prices. You have more margin. You have better hires. You spend less time working because your team's really good. You can reinvest into growth, and then you get more leads. So it's kind of like a virtuous flywheel that just brings everything up. It's the tide that raises all ships. Compare that to if you have no leads, it's kind of the opposite. All of a sudden you take on these nightmare clients. You feel needy on sales calls, so you close, your closing ability goes down. You have these nightmare clients, so you can't really focus. You can't charge high prices. It's really competitive. Your margin goes out the window. Then all of a sudden you have to hire VAs to do service delivery. And it's kind of like, well, what are we doing here? How are we meant to grow if all these things are true? So really big problem. Number 3 is that all your clients come from referrals. So the third problem is that, if all your clients come from referrals, it's kind of just like leaving your future in the hands of other people. It's not a bad thing if you get referrals. It actually, kind of indicates that you're delivering a great service. But if you only get clients from referrals, you essentially put your business's future in someone else's hands. Like I mentioned, you're kind of waiting for someone else to feed you. That means the lives of your wife, husband, kids, all your hopes and dreams are kind of pinned on the fact that some client or some friend is going to think of you magically and try to convince someone else to reach out and give you their business. It's kind of an idealized world where you just magically get clients, but it's not as realistic. It's not as realistic. If you ever want to sell your business, no one's going to buy it if you're just getting referrals. That's just too risky. And even if you don't want to sell it, remember what I said about you want to build a business that's worth owning. So you want to build stuff that's reliable and robust, and that can continually pay you and continually have value for you. So then if you think about it, the reason some agency owners hate their work is pretty much because they run a terrible business that's more painful to own than it is beneficial to own. So whether you want to pivot or not, avoiding reliance on referrals is a high priority. Excuse me, got a bit of a cold. Number 4 is that 99% of your leads are unqualified. So the problem that 99% of your leads are unqualified is not really the true problem. Because in any given market, at any given time, 99% of the leads are always going to be unqualified. Maybe they can't afford it. Maybe they have someone in-house already. Maybe they have another agency. Maybe they're just not a good fit for you personality-wise. There's nothing you, I, or anyone else is going to change about this. The problem here is that you only have your main service and nothing else to offer. Just because someone's not qualified to pay you thousands of dollars a month for your main service does not mean they have no money at all. Especially if you're an agency, that doesn't mean they don't have any money in their bank that could be given to you. So the solution to this problem is not to change human nature. It's not to change macroeconomics or life or anything like that. The solution is just to create different offers to address every different level of the market. If you don't, this leaves about 75% of potential revenue on the table. If you are only offering your main service, you're making about 1/4 of what you could be making. And the proof in the pudding of this is that we had Angus, who recently hit 60K a month, I think from 6K a month. So he's 10x his business in 6 months. Really, all he did was add in offers for multiple levels in the market and start making better content, start doing outreach, and start doing paid ads. That was literally all he did, and he 10x'd his business. A lot of that revenue came from his other offers that weren't his recurring service. I believe he closed about 25K in one-time setup deals in, I think, 1 week during that month where he had his all-time high, which was last month. Congrats to him. So just by adding a service for the other levels of the market, other than your main ICP, you can do some pretty insane things to your revenue. Then, bonus problem number 5, founders. This is you. So you can't focus, poor work ethic, consistency, planning, organizational ability, self-limiting beliefs. And even if these things aren't as extreme, even if you were able to get a little bit more focus out of yourself or a little bit more work ethic or a little bit more planning, even if these things were in place, were improved a little bit, that would have a massive, massive result. Because really, the fifth problem is often yourself. A lot of people like to dodge this and kind of pretend like it doesn't apply to them, but those are typically the ones that need it the most. Sorry to tell you. Simply put, it doesn't matter if you have a 10 out of 10 offer and a 10 out of 10 funnel. If you have a 2 out of 10 personal ability to focus, organization, work ethic, etc., your entire business is going to be a 2 out of 10. You only ever get to be as strong as your weakest link. And if your weakest link is yourself, like if you grow to the certain level where you are the bottleneck, then you have to improve. And that shouldn't be an outrageous thing. Not as if you're evil because you have to improve. I look at myself every single day and think, hey, I need to get better here. I need to make better content here. I need to get better management skills when I'm managing this team member. You are only as good as the weakest link. And if that's you, that's completely fine. It's actually better to identify that and focus on fixing it rather than just kind of ignoring the fact that you might be the biggest bottleneck. It's really normal. It's everyone at a different stage in the business. So like I said, it's much better to just figure out, hey, if I dialed in my routine a bit more, if I focus a bit more, if I plan a bit more, we can get 50% more efficient. Because truly, there's really nothing more frustrating than wanting to be great and then seeing the opportunity slip through your fingers just because you can't focus or work hard for more than a few hours or days at a time. Really kills your self-esteem. It's kind of a self-sabotage thing, but it's a massive problem nonetheless. So we'll talk about how to solve these in a second, but let's get on to some key requirements if you want to sell, if you want to make $1 million a year in profit. So this is the biggest thing that I screwed up back in the day. So my problem was productized services. So this refers to a business model where the standardized service is sold and delivered in a consistent and repeatable manner, much like a product. So this model focuses on providing a specific service with a fixed scope and price, which makes it easier for customers to understand, purchase, and use. So if you're going past scope all the time, or you're doing all this random stuff, you're delivering all these different services, specifically on the front end as well. So if you're marketing a bunch of different services, it can be a lot harder to scale with a high profit margin because there's so much more complexity that comes with that. So when you sell something productized, it helps you stay within scope. And that means you can build a system that delivers the same thing over and over and over again and becomes more efficient with time. So that makes your team training easier. It reduces the need to have highly skilled employees, and it also reduces the reliance on you, because if you're delivering all these things that are so random and out of scope, trust me, I learned this from experience, a lot of the times it's you who will have to pick up the slack. So you can't rely on your employees to do X, Y, and Z because they don't know how to do all of this different stuff. It's always you who has to chop in, or you can pay a really expensive team of employees in different departments who can do all this stuff. But like I said, they're really expensive. So then that kills your profit margin. So it's either you and your time's getting screwed over, or you have really high level employees who can do it and then your bank's getting screwed over. So none of those are really ideal. So that's why we want productized services. Not doing this leads to a lower profit margin and a higher chance of plateauing. Really not ideal. That was me. I was plateaued. Next, clients. So fairly straightforward, but you need to sell to people who can afford your services. That doesn't mean they need to be super rich, but selling in industries where nobody makes money will make it 10 times harder. That's pretty self-explanatory. The target audience of this doesn't need to hear that too often, but you just want to make sure of that. Next is decision-making and planning. So most people work pretty hard, but they could work more efficiently. So most people say they would probably spend majority of their time working, but if that is the case and your business is growing, more than likely you're focusing on the wrong stuff. And focusing on the wrong stuff is kind of like if your tires were flat and then you keep trying to fix the engine for some reason. It sounds kind of silly, but that's what a lot of people do with your business. It's really easy to see someone else's bottlenecks, but when we're looking at our own business, finding our own problems is much harder because you are in the weeds. So what happens is we're trying to fix our tire while our engine is malfunctioning, and the only reason we can't see it is because our head is so deep trying to fix the tire that it just doesn't work and you can't see it. So you need to be able to look above the business and be able to strategize and basically figure out what you need to do at any given moment. Usually what we've found is that there are 2 to 3 things that if you do them well, you'll win. So for example, from Matt's agency, his were number 1, the ad funnel, number 2, his newsletter, and number 3, his product. Really important, every day, all you need to do is hit off on those things. And we'll talk about that more a bit in a second. The next thing is you have to handle a lot of stuff yourself. So when it comes to turning your business into a cash flow machine, a lot of times it's your responsibility and nobody else's. So it's not a lead gen agencies. It's not me. It's not Matt's problem. It's not your mum's problem. As the founder, a lot of the time it's on you to grow your business. And it's your responsibility and something you have to do. You can't just pass it off to someone else or to an employee or outsource it. No one except you has the technical knowledge, personal investment, and standards to get it done. So we can't do it for you. We don't have the technical knowledge to make the lead magnets, the content, etc. Your employees don't, agencies don't. A lot of times, it's all up to you. If you decide to go for it, you get all the credit. If you don't go for it, you get all the blame. A big part of this, is that it's your responsibility. It's not anyone else's responsibility. Any excuses or probably made up justifications are a sign that you're not taking responsibility. And that is the biggest agency killer of all. It's really just taking accountability for all of this stuff as your own fault because that gives you the power to fix all the stuff that may be broken. So that's a really important point, but it's not as important as this next one. The biggest reason that agencies don't make enough profit is because they have no leverage. So let me explain this. It's a really, really important point. Leverage is basically the difference between what you put in and what you get out. It's what allows businesses to grow bigger and faster with less effort. So that sounds pretty cool. But for example, if I make a video, it takes 1 hour of my time and 10,000 people see it, that is a much higher leverage task than if I speak to one person for 1 hour. The same amount of effort goes into it, but it's a vastly different output. So for example, when I first met Matt, it felt like he got a month's worth of work done in a day, but it wasn't like he had more hours or he had 1,000 employees that did all his work for him. It was more just about the resources that he chose to use and where he chose to spend his resources. So while Matt was only working on the most important stuff, others, like me included, would get caught up in the day-to-day. So kind of makes it seem like even if we're working really, really hard, we're not making much progress compared to people like, for example, someone like Matt at the time, who you just look at them and you're like, what are they doing different than me? I feel like I'm working pretty hard. And the thing is, this revealed to me that most agency owners kind of live on a hamster wheel, but you want to avoid this like the plague. So just let me know if this sounds like pretty familiar. You wake up in the morning, you have a bunch of tasks planned, maybe a few calls for the day. Then you wake up after rolling around in bed for a bit, you open your laptop and see a bunch of Slack messages. Then you get hit with a bunch of calls, and by the time you look up, it's 3 p.m. You don't even know what happened or where the time went. And you kind of just look at yourself in the mirror and just like, what did I even do today? And you look back on the days before and you don't even know what happened to that time. It's like you're kind of just, time's just floating past you while you're doing all this stuff. It's one of the worst feelings in all of business. Something you have to realize is that when someone is moving fast or someone else is getting a lot done, it's not because they're much more productive than you. It's not like they're completing tasks at a superhuman speed. They are just doing different stuff. It's not more stuff. It's just fundamentally different. So they don't get sucked into that thing where they get caught in Slack. They get caught, like, quote unquote, putting out fires. They don't get caught on calls. That stuff just doesn't occur. So from a mindset level and an execution level, it's just completely different, because you're probably reading this thinking like, what does it even take to hit 900K a month that fast? How do you even stay that profitable? It's kind of ridiculous almost. You're kind of like, you probably think like, what the fuck? Like, that's completely ridiculous. But I'll just tell you, it takes a complete shift in strategy. If you're trying to grow that fast, you have to focus on the work that you can do once and then provide an outsized output. If you're trying to grow that big, your mindset has to change. Or even if you're trying to grow fast at all, or if you're trying to make profit or trying to get more out of what you're doing, it takes a shift in your brain, a fundamental shift and a change in your behavior. And what that means is chasing the leverage. So for example, instead of getting caught in client work all the time, focus on building an A+ level training program for your employees so they can reliably do it for you and free up your time. One of the smartest things someone's ever said to me was, you run an education company, even if you run an agency, because you have to train all these employees. It's an education company. If you have labor and it's really important that you have a lot of labor in your company that's really high level, you're running an education company where you have to recruit employees, train them up really well, and then sell their labor, because you can't rely on yourself if you want to scale. Next, instead of sending all of your cold emails to get clients, send 30% of your cold emails to people who share the same ideal customers as you, offering to partner up. Then you can send each other clients, and one partner can get you 5, 10, or 20 clients instead of just one at a time. That's really sharp, and we'll cover a bit more on that later. Next, instead of doing 100% of your work manually, you can spend time building an AI model on make.com that can fulfill 40% of the work automatically. Might seem expensive or time intense upfront, but if you do it right, that can save you hundreds of thousands in salaries and resources. The theme here is that you can't just continually operate from a place of no leverage, not because it makes life harder, but because you can't actually afford it. So for example, if person A spends 20 hours per week doing copywriting work for clients, and person B spends a one-time payment of 10K to an AI expert who builds them a custom copywriting model and then spends 10 hours per week copywriting and they get 10 hours per week back, who is winning over time? Because person B focused on that one thing that they could do, that they could spend a bit of resources upfront that could pay them forever, while as person A kind of just stayed on that hamster wheel of, oh, I don't have 10K, or oh, I don't have time to build that training, oh, I don't have time to build that thing. And then they put themselves on this hamster wheel. So I think you know the answer about who would win, but really what's happening is not focusing on leverage is the exact same thing as hitting the snooze button in the morning instead of getting straight out of bed. It's just choosing the easy option. I'm going to do the bare minimum to keep going. That's what you're saying. Doing leverage tasks like making employee training takes time we don't always have. So in the short term, it is much easier to just do the minimum work yourself. And it is easier to keep everything under your control than it is to carve out the time and the hours to make some training. After all, you're probably pretty busy. You probably have a lot of stuff to do, content, lead gen, managing clients, team, all that stuff. So it's not like you're not going to be overwhelmed. But when you allow yourself being overwhelmed to stop you from taking the right actions that you need to take, it's the same as saying, I would rather feel good now than pay the price of feeling good later. And when we do this, we're basically making the choice to stay on the hamster wheel forever. We're basically shooting ourselves in the foot long term. Really bad, not good. It's like, I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to do what I need to do. And then all of a sudden you become fat, AKA you have no profit, and you kind of put your arms in the air and you're like, whoa, what happened? Why am I fat? Well, it's like, did you do the stuff that was going to make you fit? Did you do the stuff that was going to get you profit? Did you do the stuff that was going to make you leverage? Probably not. So that's what we're talking about in this video. This presentation is about making money, yes, but if we are talking about making money, we're really talking about building leverage. Most people have heard of leverage and what it is. It's not like information's scarce. Everyone knows Hormozi at this point. Everyone knows Naval, the guy who made that thread about making money. So the question is, why aren't you focusing on it? Maybe because no one explained it properly, and maybe because you haven't been taking action. Hopefully both of those things will be solved today and you have a lot of clarity after this presentation. Really, it's not about innate skills. Like, you don't need copywriting or sales or even raw execution, like doing more volume to fix this. It's kind of just about pushing the right buttons at the right time and then also avoiding the wrong buttons like the plague. So when we focus on the wrong stuff, it sets us back months. But when we focus on the right stuff, it's kind of helps us grow like crazy. So for example, conversion pages, Matt's previous agency, 0 to 900K a month in 12 months. Views to clients, 100K a month in 7 months. Viral bangers, 30K a month in 90 days. Monetize Me, Angus Cowan, 6K a month to 60K a month in 6 months. Strike Copy, 10 to 50K in 4 months. And Max Sturdivant, Well Copy, 2 clients a month through 7 clients a month and doubled MRR in 79 days just by focusing on this stuff. So it's not like it's made up. Not like it's made up. You can kind of get a benefit from this, I would like to think. So in terms of how to get more leverage, step 1 is basically breaking it down into the types of leverage. So number 1, code leverage. So to get more code leverage, you can use something like AI. AI can do X, Y, Z for you. AI can do a process for you, can write copy for you, and then you can get the task done faster with less cost, and you are getting more out than you are putting in. Next, you can have cold email, so you can scrape and send tens of thousands of emails automatically, and you don't have to send them one by one, and you are getting more out than what you put in. Next is automation, so you can automate tasks you would have previously had to do, and it can be faster, more accurate, less costs, and you're getting more out than you're putting in. Next, with labor leverage, so with a training system, you can create let's say you create a true employee training and onboarding system, and you can turn a lower paid employee into a complete superstar in a reliable and predictable way. You might pay that employee $30 an hour, but you might be able to turn them into a $100 an hour employee, which means over time you're making more and more of an ROI, and you are getting more out than you're putting in. Next, overseas talent. So if you can train overseas talent properly and set yourself up properly, you can hire overseas labor for a lot of times over, and you can do it for a fraction of the price, and you're getting more out than you're putting in. And partnerships. So for example, with partnerships, you can take advantage of other people's time and effort. Even if you're one person, you can get 51 people's labor by just partnering with one person who can basically control that on their side. So you're getting out more than what you're putting in. Something to note is that sometimes better and more expensive employees can also provide leverage, because an A player might be worth 5 to 10 times more than a B player, but you only might have to pay 1.5x the price. So you can pay 1.5x more to get a 5 or a 10x, and that can be one of the best investments you can make. But there are a lot of different times for different plays, so you don't want to always think of that as a blanket rule. Obviously, the employees are different. It's like a dynamic thing. You can't just say, oh yeah, pay more, you're going to get more. It has to be an A player, and they have to be really, really good. Next, capital leverage. You can get an ad funnel. It puts $1 in and $2 out. All of a sudden, your money's working for you and actually have somewhere to reinvest your funds. Or you can do inverting laws of supply and demand. So this funnel gets you a ton of leads. You can charge premium prices for the same thing because you have less neediness. Then you can also spend less to acquire a customer than others. So paid ads, content, outreach, and partnerships working together, which means that maybe you have the same revenue but less expenses, and you're getting more out than what you put in. There's a common theme here. Next, your newsletter. So you can have an email list. That's a really tangible asset. You can write it once and deliver it to thousands of people at once. You can have a YouTube video that's recorded once and thousands of people view it. You don't have to explain things individually to thousands of people over and over again. You can just do it once and broadcast it. Social media content can be repurposed across all platforms and get attention from thousands of people at the same time. And also conversion mechanisms, so super high quality webinars, live workshops, etc. Other examples, and they make it possible to sell at scale. So doing one-to-many sales is a really, really good way of doing media leverage. For example, if you have a webinar and there are thousands of people on there, you can sell to all those people at once rather than having a sales team or salespeople or yourself doing those sales calls. Keep in mind, the goal here isn't to find something that's going to give you like 100x leverage or 100x return. It's really about having a lot of small instances where you get a 1.3, a 1.5, or a 1.7x return. And then you're trying to stack a lot of these on top of each other so you can eventually reach that 100 times, 200 times leverage, where you can make minor tweaks in your assets, your content, lead magnets, ads, and team trainings, and get a huge return. For example, if you're sending thousands and thousands of people to a video sales letter on your website and you make it convert 1% more, that's a massively leveraged move because you might be able to just make one tweak to the hook, to the lead, to the visuals, and all of a sudden you can make way more money. So what eventually happens is you get so much leverage, eventually it becomes impossible to catch up. So you can kind of build a defensible moat for your agency by having so much more leverage. You can charge better prices, you can have a much better team, better training, better employees, all of this stuff, and it kind of all stacks on top of each other. For example, if you have built the leverage of a personal brand, that's something your competitors can't match overnight. They can't just get 5,000 B2B subscribers, even if you have just 5,000. It's a very achievable thing. People can't just match that overnight though. It does take work, it takes time, and it takes time to stack that. Also, if you had a top tier AI, like an AI model that could partially fulfill work for you, let's say 40% of the work can be done by AI, that's also leverage your competitors can't match overnight. It takes that upfront work, it takes that effort at the start and that focus on those sorts of things in order to stack these over time. The more you can do this, the better off you'll be, which is really important. I hope that fundamental, if you don't take anything else from this presentation, that is one of the most important things that you can possibly do. Next, first section, the first true section, because previously was kind of fundamentals, the first true section is going to be about behavior. So the way in which you work and function. It might sound simple. You might immediately think, oh, there's another guy's focus, mindset, and routine. This guy's just yapping. I am kind of yapping here. I'll admit that I am kind of talking a lot here, but people's behavior most of the time is the thing that holds them back. Doesn't matter if you have the best offer. Like I said before, you don't need the best team, best funnel, best everything, A triple plus players. If your behavior isn't 10 out of 10, you're never going to have a 10 out of 10 business. Doesn't matter. But this is why behavior change is so important, because your offers can be 10 out of 10. Your funnel can be 10 out of 10. But if you're down here, you're not going to grow. So you wouldn't think that'd be the case for successful business owners that we work with so often. But after working with so many, I can directly tell you that it is. Everyone knows it's not a good idea to scroll social media all day, but what most people do is they focus on low leverage tasks that don't move the needle in the business, which is basically the same thing. You're basically wasting time, like I mentioned. It's the exact same way that your engine might be on fire, but you're still focusing on tweaking the tires, you're focused on fixing the tires, which doesn't actually give you an ROI. It doesn't actually do anything, but we give ourselves a pass because it still counts as work, and you can still go on Instagram and say, I work 12 hours a day, or I work all this time, and everyone around you say, oh, you work so hard. When in reality, you're not really doing anything. So on Instagram, you can kind of fake it, but your bank account does not lie to you. You know when these things are happening. You know when you could get more out of yourself, and hopefully this is going to be able to help you. So here are some of the behaviors that you must avoid, absolutely kill you. So let's say you let anyone book a call with you at any time during the day. You don't take any control of your schedule. You never do any focused work. You just fit some in between calls. You constantly talk to your team and have Slack open 24 hours a day. You have 100 tabs open. You don't have a plan. You don't prioritize the most important stuff first. You make sure to use any excuses you can possibly think of and justify any lack of productivity with excuses. You switch between tasks constantly. You load up on sugar and coffee until your stress hits inhumane levels. You go with your gut and just try your best. And you don't block any distractions. You just let them in every time. And here's another one is you focus on burnout and worry about working too much. So if you're always constantly thinking, oh, I'm burnt out. I've never thought once about being burnt out, and it's served me quite well. And I think Matt would say the same thing. But without the right behavior, your time is worth nothing. And your focus is worth nothing. So if you're just working for 20 minutes here and 20 calls, 30 minutes here between calls, you're not going to get nearly the same amount of time as someone who can put a couple of focused hours in. And let me explain. So let's imagine two agency owners, so person A and person B. Person A gets hit with 3,000 Slack messages, client and team calls all scattered throughout the day at random times, and enough coffee to kill a horse, while person B lives a bit differently. They have their calendar blocked till 12 p.m. They don't take any calls until later in the day. They have pre-planned 2 to 3 high leverage tasks that move the needle. They focus on building things that will help them later rather than keeping themselves on a never-ending treadmill of putting out spot fires as soon as they come up. Who do you think is going to make more money out of person A and person B? Another one, who would you rather hire as a client? So if I was going to hire an agency, who do you think would you rather hire? Person A or person B? The person who is constantly reactive and has no strategy, or the person who is calm and calculated? Pretty obvious that person B gets more work done. Everyone can tell that. But let's go even deeper. How much more effective is person B than person A? Let's say person A does 1 unit of work per hour. So just an arbitrary unit, 1 unit of work, while person B does 4 units of work per hour, which is not unreasonable. If you're really, really focused compared to not being focused, it's about 1 unit to 4 units. You can be probably 4 times as productive per hour. So let's just say 4 units versus 1. Pretty reasonable, given that person B has all the right behaviors and person A is doing pretty much everything wrong. So let's compare that for 5 hours per day of work. Let's say you work 5 hours per day, 251 work days per year. So person A, after 1 hour or 2 hours, what am I even saying here? 8 units. Person A, after 1 hour, is going to have 1 unit. Person B, after 1 hour, is going to have 4 units. Then 4 times 5, oh my goodness, I might have to fix the maths here. 4 times 5 is 20. 20 units after 1 day. And let's have a look here. Let's say they have 20 units per day times 251, 5,020. So person B has 5,020 units per year. Whereas after 1 day, person A is doing 1 unit per hour for 5 hours. That's 5 units. And 5 units times 251 is 1,255. So 1,255. So after 1 year, person A has achieved 1,255 units and person B has achieved 5,000 units of work. This is completely wrong maths. I don't know what I was doing. I must have been deep in the writing. So after 1 year, person A has done 1,255 and person B has done 5,020 units of work. Imagine that over 10 years. Might not seem like much in the moment when you're in that hour of only doing 1 unit of work, but when you get distracted, when you have these Slack messages, when they delay you, it's wasting precious minutes and it's costing you big time. So by fixing your behavior and focus, you can get 1, 2, or 10 times the amount of work done. And it makes a big difference because imagine if you had a clone of yourself running around doing tasks for you. Imagine that. Imagine how much would that be worth? Imagine a second person with your brain that could do everything you can do was running around doing stuff for you. How much money, time, and stress would that save you if there was literally 2 of you? That's exactly what happens when you get 2 times the amount of work done. It's the exact same as having a clone of you. So imagine you had 5 of those. Imagine, it'd be crazy. Like this is literally what happens. Of course, we can't expect to be firing on all cylinders for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But let's say you bring in a couple of tweaks that get 2 times your productivity. You get 2 tasks per hour done instead of 1. That's like having a clone. Everyone wants to do that. Everyone wants to do that. It's not always easy and it's going to come with a cost, but it's important. So let's talk about why you might not be doing that. Let's say you're stuck in fulfillment, building systems, client calls, team calls, focusing on product. Can't work 5 hours per day because I've got other stuff to do. I don't know what to focus on. What you are saying is I was doing XYZ thing that does not make me money. Great. That's completely fine if you don't like winning and if you don't like money. But if you want to grow and grow profitably, you're going to need to stop coming up with excuses and start coming up with reasons why you can do stuff and changing your behavior instead of coming up with reasons why you can't. So for example, if you say, there's no possible way that I could have 5 hours of focused work in a day, I would challenge you and say, why don't you just block your calendar? And the reason why is because most people will say, well, I have sales calls or I have team calls during these hours that I have to take. Well, actually, let's say you take that sales call and you close that deal. That might make you, let's say you close 20%. That sales call is going to make you, a couple $1,000s, 1 in 5 times of the calls that you take. But let's say that slot being blocked, how much money can that make you? If that slot was wide open for you to focus, how much money is that going to make you over time if you can focus? If it's going to make you 5 times the amount of work done, is that worth a couple $1,000s every 1 in 5 sales calls you take? And especially given the fact that even if you move that sales call later, you're not actually losing that money. It's just that it was delayed a couple of hours instead of having it in the morning. So it's kind of just excuses that don't actually make sense. You must block that time. It is costing you money, and it is costing you more money to have that time wide open for anyone to book a call in than it is making you to take that call at that time. That's really what I'm trying to say there. So if you want to grow, you want to go profitably, do that. Because really, the people who use their resources the best are the ones that make the most money. That's pretty safe to say. People that use strategy, they use resources, they're really good at growing businesses. The problem here, most founders don't even get the chance to allocate their resources effectively because they spend most of their time, which is their most valuable resource, being distracted by silly stuff like Slack or YouTube. So your best time, your best resource, time, is completely wasted on distraction, which is not good. So if your behavior is wrecked, it becomes impossible to even have a strategy. And how do you think you're going to succeed without a strategy? So the first thing you need to set up is your behavior so you can win in the first place. That's why we put such a focus on it. And if you think, well, no, I'm already super productive, then why haven't you done all this stuff you're talking about? And even if you are already super productive, it's still valuable to get that extra 10%, that extra 20% of productivity. Because the thing is, when it comes to behavior, it's not just waking up early, having a cold shower and doing all that stuff. It's about getting the most out of yourself. And most people don't like to admit it, but you could probably 2 to 3x your work output by making a few key tweaks. And this is the same as myself. I constantly am looking at myself. How can I get more out of myself? Do I need to get my phone out of the room? Do I need to do all this stuff? Do I need to do all these necessary things to get more out of myself? So even if you're already making a lot of money, breaking through to new levels of profit and growth always requires you to burn your previous self and step into a new you. So here are some quick fire tips that you can change today that can 10x your output. Number 1, block the first 3 to 5 hours of the day and build your schedule so you only take calls after 11 or 12. If you can't do this in the morning, block your calendar in the afternoon. No matter what, have 5 hours blocked on your calendar and fit everything else around it. The world does not explode when you don't reply for a few minutes. The world's not going to explode. And it's going to cost you more money to not have this time blocked than it is to not reply for a few hours or not take sales calls in that few hours. From experience, by blocking those first few hours of the day, you're only going to miss a couple of sales calls anyway. And if you absolutely must take a call in that time, or there is an emergency, you can just put that time in there. You can manually schedule that time in and say, look, I'll open something up for you. We can talk at that time. If we absolutely must, I'd prefer the other time. But the problem is that when you don't block it, people will just book there because you had it open, and they'll book at that time, 9 a.m., just because they felt like that was a good time, because you let it be open for a good time. You let it be open for them. So people just manually choose that even if they were available later in the day. So just block the time. I don't want to have to harp on about it, but you literally do because it's such an important thing. Next, work with a 60-minute timer and then take a 10-minute break. So this is really important. After the 60 minutes, you can fill out a form that asks you what you did in the previous hour. And this acts to keep you accountable and tracks your work rate so you can improve it. Bonus points if you fill in the form responses and it goes to an accountability partner. So what we do is we have a Google form. I have it bookmarked on my browser. And what we do is every hour, I put a 60-minute timer on. Timer goes off because I'm working. And then I fill in the form. The form asks me a couple of questions. What'd you do? Why are you doing this? What do you need to focus on? Was this better than the last hour? Then that automatically sends in Zapier to my business partner, Matt, in Slack, and he can see it and he does the exact same thing. So I can see all his work, he can see all my work. And basically it just kind of becomes like a competition of like who can work more, who can get more done. And it's a really positive like productivity environment. Next, set a standard to never miss your 5 work hours. So write it down every day, literally Bart Simpson mode. I never do less than 5 hours work in a day. And it becomes a part of your identity. And over time, you actually get addicted to getting these work forms done. It's kind of crazy. Like if at this point, after doing it for so long, it gets to a point where if I don't do my work forms, I feel like something's incredibly wrong. Like I miss my work forms. It becomes like a drug. So you get addicted to your work by doing this. It's not just about, depleting dopamine from not going on your phone, not going on TikTok and all those things. It's also about creating a positive feedback loop to the work that can create these crazy productivity gains. So stick to it for 30 days, give it a try and see how you like it. Next, make a plan at night for how you're going to move the needle the next day, and make sure you never get to your desk without knowing what you are going to do in each 60-minute work block. Really important to figure out what you need to be doing. Make a list of every single potential task that you could do, and then ask yourself, if I could only do one of these things, which would have the greatest impact? That'll be task number 1. Then if I could only do 2 tasks, what would be the second task? Then that's the second task. And then for the third thing, what would be the 3 tasks that I would choose that would have the highest impact? And then basically just do those things. It's not really complex. This basically follows the idea that the top 3 tasks are going to bring you 90% of the gains, and then everything else can be done later, done by someone else, or done or not really done at all. And if that sounds like stuff you've heard before, again, why are you not doing it? Are you too good to do all these things that help you focus? Are you already too smart? Do you already focus way better than that without that stuff? If that's the case, that's great. But if that's not helping you focus, do you have such a sense of self-confidence that you are, quote, above doing all the things that allow you to work the right way? That's a really challenging question potentially. I really hope that's not the case, because these are things that they're just basics. These are just basics that if you do them right, you will be more productive. So it's not as if I'm saying, go and do a 67-step biohacking routine. It's just like, why would you not do the basics? Phone out of room. Use a timer. Don't have Slack open. Don't let people book calls with you that distract you at different times in the day. Give yourself the time to focus. This is all stuff that treats your brain essentially like a robot. And for the robot to succeed, if your brain was like even a robot is probably a little bit too generous. If your brain was like a lizard, how would you get the lizard to focus? You'd have to give it the absolute perfect conditions if you could, and just kind of put yourself in a position to succeed rather than having all these factors up against you that would prevent you from being able to focus. Really important. The next thing that's really important here is standards. Really, really big indicator of success is someone's standards. So we don't rise to the level of our expectations or the ideal version of ourselves. We fall to the level of our standards. So for example, when you're in a rut, it's not as if you go into the street and start doing a bunch of drugs. Maybe it is, I hope not, but it's not like you go into the street and start doing a bunch of crazy stuff. It's more likely that when you're in a rut, you probably just feel a little bit less productive. You probably just coast through work days and you just fulfill the bare minimum for clients and probably don't get that much work done. That's because your minimum standard is to probably at least get a little bit of work done. You probably minimum standard you're going to fulfill for clients. And these standards, this is basically just an accepted practice, requirement, or quality of work. So this is really important. Some companies might say, yeah, we're just fulfilling this amount of time, and that amount of time might be a month. Others might have a standard of finishing that work in 3 days. Some companies might respond to their leads within an hour, and some might respond to leads within 5 minutes. It's what's the minimum that's accepted, what's normal. I first learned about this when I was talking to a friend about growing on Instagram. I was being kind of slow. I hadn't gotten to it properly. I still haven't really gotten properly to growing on Instagram. And I wanted to know more about what he did. And he kind of embarrassed me a little bit. So I'll admit this embarrassing story. We were talking about content creation, and he noted that one of his reels took his editor 20 hours to edit, let alone how long it took to write the script. I just went, oh. I realized my standards were so low. They were so low compared to what actually got success. And he asked me, if Mr. Beast and his team put in millions of dollars in budgets and still only put out a few videos per month, what makes you think that your videos that you make in 20 minutes and then immediately post will get results? And he just looked at me and I said, wow, they are operating at a much higher level than me, and they probably have way bigger standards. They probably just don't accept anything except the best. And it was the exact same way that when I was reaching out to a friend about having better cold emails, he was sending 100,000 emails a day and I was only sending 3,000 a day. So my stats based on efficiency, I think I was getting about an 8% reply rate. My stats weren't actually that bad, but I was only sending 3,000 per day. And he might have had a 4% reply rate, which was half as good as mine, but he was sending 30 times the amount of emails that I was sending. So it makes sense that his standard was that we send this many, and this is the results that we get. So when you look at someone that is getting crazy, crazy results, a lot of times it's just that they don't accept anything else other than the best. Another example of that is that in investment banks, a lot of the people that work there will just work 80 hours a week because that's just normal. And I'd ask you, how many of your employees work that much? None of mine do. They don't even care that much. My employees don't work. They don't care nearly as much as an investment bank. And that's because the standards of the investment bank are so much higher than the standards of a company. That's kind of a small business. It's a really interesting concept, especially when you take into account that so few agencies actually think about this or have their company standards written out. And it's also a really interesting to consider how few people have strong personal standards. Like how many times you skip a workout, you show up late, you give yourself a pass for doing something the wrong way, or you give yourself a pass for doing something to a B+ level. That's what I was doing with my Instagram. I was just accepting, I'll just post that. That's fine. That's a good enough quality. I'll just get it up. But the truth is, your standards carry you as far as you deserve and no further. But when people say how you do one thing is how you do everything, that's what they mean. Winners have really high standards personally and for their company, and losers have low standards and they accept anything. So this impacts every single employee, every single client relationship, and every single day of your life. And the reason it matters so much is because you get to set your own standards for your business and your personal life as well. So if you want everyone in your company to think that's too hard, we can't fulfill that fast, or we can't do that much marketing, that's impossible, they're going to believe you. But if you set the bar really, really high, then it becomes normal. I'll give you a hint though. The people above you in business, people above me, 10, 20, 100 times higher standards than the average amounts or the normal amounts because they're getting crazier results. So when they're getting crazier results, it's because of the standards. It's normal for them because they've trained their minds over time. So if you hear me saying, you just do 5 hours of focused work per day, that's probably because I just have trained my mind to have a different standard. Not to say that it's like some crazy built different, this is an insane standard, but I really realized this when I first started working with Matt. I was thinking, how does this guy make stuff that's so good? His YouTube videos are so great. This is so awesome. What's the secret? How does he do it? Well, guess what? I'll just tell you. It's because he just does everything to an elite level of execution. Every ad, every lead magnet, every YouTube video has to be top notch. And it's almost as if he's afraid of making things that aren't amazing. So the mindset to make something 10 times better is actually what forces you to work differently. Then all of a sudden, it just works better because you have that standard that it has to work better. So if you don't learn anything else from this whole presentation other than to 10x your standards, you are going to get an insane ROI from the time investment that you've put in. You will get an insane time ROI. It's that simple. So if you double your standards, you'll probably double your business. And here are quick examples on how to instill them. Number one, simply do not allow yourself to not do 5 timed hours of work. Why would you ever do less than that? Just don't accept it. So even if it gets to 10 p.m. and you've still got an hour to do left, just do the hour because it's a personal standard. It's a personal thing that I have to do my 5 hours of work. That's the exact thing I do. If I've had a really long day, I get bombarded with calls, no matter what happens, I'm just going to do the 5 hours. Number two, never accept low standards from employees. So if your employees do something that's outside of your standard, you just immediately tell them, hey, that's not how we work here. That's not how we do things. This is the level that we're at. And you have to remind them as fast as possible. Then make a list and read out your company standards every day to yourself. And also you can basically do this for personal standards. You can have your employees have personal standards. This is really important stuff. You can make people level up and help people level up doing this. Next, continually raise your standards over time. So you might start with 5 hours a day. You might build that up to 6 hours per day. It feels really good. You're progressing over time. You can get addicted to progression. Next, try to get exposed to hard workers. So if everyone else around you is doing something, it's really, really easy to do that. For example, I've been on a lot of football teams in my time, in my sort of athlete background, I guess, kind of you could say. I've been on teams that won premierships. We won 10 premierships in 12 years in juniors. So when I was younger, in those teams, we trained a different way. You'd show up to training and you'd be perfect. You'd be very sharp. You'd be mentally prepared. You'd be hydrated. You'd have the right food beforehand. You'd stretch beforehand. You'd show up early because that was what was normal on a winning team. Then on a losing team, everyone shows up late. everyone gets, everyone just kind of doesn't really care if they miss a kick, or if they miss, it's like, oh, whatever, I don't really care. It's a completely different energy, because the people you're around pretty much determine what's normal. So if you continually get exposed to people that work really, really hard and they have high standards, it becomes a lot more, it goes down the hatch. It's much more digestible to have higher standards when everyone around you does it. And then next, never settle. So if you have B players on the team, lowers the whole company's standards, and every day that goes by with the fracture in the standards. So if the standards get broken, if there's a little fracture in them, they just degrade more and more over time. And that is when you get to those losing teams, like I said. So as soon as someone misses a kick, or they mess up a campaign, or whatever it is, the more that is accepted and the more that goes on, the worse it's going to get. And eventually you just become a losing team. So it's really important to know that. Next, the offer. So section 2, the offer is basically you get X, I get Y. How does that sound? Deal? Cool. The offer is arguably, and probably is, the highest point of leverage in any business. It's also an incredibly important part of this presentation, because there's a lot of people teaching offers in online programs and on YouTube, but very few who are actually doing it well. The problem that comes up is that when you're making offers in a B2B market to strangers who don't know you and don't trust you, it's very different to gurus who sell you a dream after getting you to watch some vlogs. Most of the time when gurus sell an offer, there's a huge gap in status between the prospect and the guru, and the offer is basically live my lifestyle and be like me. If you try and sell a guru offer to a B2B client, you're going to get put in your place pretty quickly. And I don't blame Hormozi for this, for his book, but I do blame the guru. So the guru style of offer only really works when you have a massive social media audience and you sell to beginners. They don't really work in the real world. They work in Mr. Beast world. So before we talk about really how to create a great offer, let me get this fundamental truth out of the way as well. When you're selling to referrals and people who already know you, you don't always need an offer. Someone says, yeah, I need a new landing page. And then in your network, here's what you say. I make landing pages. Do you want one? And they buy one. It's very easy. But if you want to scale your business, you can't rely on referrals, because you eventually run out of people who know who you are. And when you're selling services to strangers, you need an offer. Your service does not count as a good offer. So for example, if your service is, I will make you a landing page, I will write emails for you, I will run your paid ads. These are just services that you can deliver, not an offer. You can only sell basically a service to people who already know you and people who already want that thing. That's why sometimes you can have success with these things if you reach out to someone at the exact perfect time, or they see your ad at the exact perfect time. Most of the time, strangers don't care if you do paid ads or if you do email, if you do any of these things really. They are thinking, that's great that you do paid ads, but what do I get? What's the outcome? Why should I care about this? And the solution here is to determine a desirable outcome you can get for the prospect. For example, if you do landing pages, an outcome you can get is a 10% better conversion rate. If you do emails, a 30% better conversion rate from email is an outcome. If you do paid ads, a 10% lower cost per acquisition is an outcome. Then all you need to focus on is getting them to believe that you can get them the outcome. So you can use a guarantee, social proof, a good sales process, content, etc. A lot of people worry about having a commoditized offer or a saturated offer, but every single service is a commodity until it's turned into an offer. A commodity is just a useful thing. So yeah, paid ads are useful. That's fine. But it becomes an offer when you attach an outcome to it. If I can get a lower cost per acquisition, that is a desirable outcome that makes it a much better offer than just paid ads. So everybody wants a lower cost per acquisition in almost all circumstances. That means even if it is saturated, even if they do already have people that offer that thing, it's still desirable as long as you can get it lower than someone else. So as long as you can get them a better outcome, it is still a good offer. It doesn't matter if they already have an agency. If you can blow their agency out of the water, you are going to get the client. It is that simple. Getting a client a desirable outcome is never, ever, ever going to be saturated. You just might have to change the desirable outcome that you get them or that you can get them. So if you can't deliver results for your clients, of course it's going to be saturated. You need to be able to deliver results for your clients. Does that make sense? So you don't have to change your service. You just have to deliver an offer. And an offer means you are selling an outcome. But when you're selling outcomes, you have to be careful, of course, because you don't want to just sell the dream. So let me tell you why. About 10 months ago, I just signed a deal to partner with a paid ads agency and help them get more clients. They had a great track record, one of the best in their niche, and they were already doing over $100,000 a month in profit. I was really excited to work with them because I thought this will be so easy. I'm going to get them a bunch of clients. They're so established. This is going to be a piece of piss. That's what we say in Australia. Piece of piss means it's going to be really easy. I was wrong. as I maybe often am. So we were testing a lot of stuff. Nothing really worked. ROAS guaranteed, guaranteed X sales, free audit, free loom, make you money, beat your current cost per acquisition, yada, yada, yada. All the normal stuff was nowhere near our regular KPIs, and I started sweating a bit. So I knew I was going to get them results. I knew I could, but it was not working out at all like I'd planned. No matter what we did, leads were always just hard to come by. And for a second, I started thinking, well, it's going to be really saturated, yada, yada, yada. Maybe this is a commoditized offer. Maybe we need to do AI growth partner setup stuff. But then I reminded myself, nothing's really saturated. We just have to create a better offer. We have to make it work. What's the outcome? What's the perceived likelihood of outcome? All this stuff. So I was thinking, what even makes a better offer? I knew the founder wouldn't want to give a guarantee of more sales or higher ROAS because we'd already tried that. And to make it worse, it wasn't just that the guarantee wasn't working. It was actually really bad for branding as well. So people would DM him saying, oh, you're a scammer, attract low quality leads. And typically only 1/5 of the prospects that we attracted were actually good. And the prospects hated it because we overpromised and it seemed scammy and untrue. So I kept thinking, why would someone say no to an offer that guarantees them more sales and higher ROAS? It should be an outcome they want. More money, guaranteed. How could you turn it down? It wasn't making sense in my head. But eventually, after a long time, I realized the reason they turned it down was because they didn't believe us. So why would they believe you if you're making a promise that's that big? It wasn't that the market was saturated. It's that they'd been promised so much BS that their trust levels were low. This is almost every industry has really low trust levels right now. It's basically the same as when you get cheated on by a partner. When you eventually get into your next relationship, you're going to have some trust issues. That's kind of self-explanatory, of course. So it makes sense. Of course they would say no, they've been burned before. But how do we sell to them if they don't trust us? That's a real problem. So instead of making a no-brainer offer and reversing the risk with a guarantee, we got much more specific and just made an offer that was inherently lower risk than having a big risk, big offer and then reversing it. We just said, let's just lower the risk all the way and make it a low risk offer anyway. So if we can get them to take a small bet on us, we can win their trust and then use that as leverage to sign them on a bigger deal later. So instead of, hey, we're going to make you an extra 100K in 90 days or you don't pay, it's more like, hey, we'll make you 10 ad creatives. And if they don't beat your current cost per acquisition in 14 days, we'll give you a full refund and put that in writing. So this offer can be called a couple of different names: intro offer, one-time offer, front-end offer. Doesn't really matter what you call it. The point is that there are 3 reasons why this works so well. Number 1, most offers present way too much risk to someone who's been burned before and doesn't trust you. Intro offers give you a chance to show how you are different rather than just telling them, hey, I'm different, we can do this for you, etc., etc. Number 2, instead of going for a bigger offer, you want to go smaller and build trust first. This is going to improve your take rate, aka your marketing efficiency, your close rate, and your lead flow at the same time. And you actually close about 5 times more clients using intro offers than you will doing recurring offers. So it's actually insanely more efficient to use one-time offers or intro offers. Number 3, it's not possible to reduce risk to the point where there is a huge gap between the risk and potential reward on a recurring service. So what I mean by that is when you're selling a recurring service, it is inherently a big commitment because you're signing up to something that's going to go for a long time. It's basically like getting married. So if you want to get someone to marry you, the best option is not to just go, hey, do you want to get married? The best option is, hey, do you want to go on a date? Then you go on some dates. Then you eventually move in together. Then maybe you get a dog. Then maybe after a couple of years, then maybe you pop the question. But if you just go straight for the let's get married, your take rate and your close rate on the marriage up front is going to be much lower than if you just took a bit of a slower process. So you need to reduce the risk using a one-time service that they have a known cost of and a known potential reward. Does that make sense? So they know they're going to pay this much. They know they're ideally getting this outcome. It's very, very specific, and it's much easier to trust that. If you want to use a guarantee on a recurring service, it might actually be months until they get a result, in which case it is already too costly for them. And you have probably also yourself spent too much money fulfilling for them for it to be financially viable to give them a refund. There is a lot to unpack there. When you do a recurring service guarantee, you might have to fulfill for 90 days. Before you either get the result or don't get the result. During that time, that is so damn expensive for you that if you gave them a refund, you might lose a shit ton of money. But the thing is, if you don't get the result, the client deserves a refund because you told them you were going to get them XYZ result. So all of a sudden, it's a completely adverse situation, meaning bad situation, because They are thinking screw you, you are thinking screw them, and the clash is just like, this is not going to go well. So just wipe that shit off the floor. Don't use a recurring offer and use a one-time offer. Most agencies completely have no idea about that though, and they only use recurring offer, which makes it harder to build trust with a large base of clients, which leads to less deal flow and less money. In this case, less money equals bad. I'm just going to make that as an assumption. It also makes us look pretty stupid when we say, hey, stranger, I'm going to get you unrealistic result in unrealistic time frame, or you don't pay. How cool is that? How does that sound? I'll also work for free if we never get to the goal. Good deal or what? Is that a good deal? How cool is that? I'm going to work for free until we never get the result ever. Trying to convince a stranger of that is very, very silly. It's not going to work. So it's much easier to just use an intro offer in the range of $2,500 to $5,000 and deliver it in less than 7 to 21 days. The only problem with the intro offer or the one-time offer is that it is inherently one time. So that means if you only had an intro offer and nothing else, you would find a bit of a problem that you'd need to have more and more clients each month and continually sell and never ever build any recurring revenue. It's really hard to build a business that way, and that is why most people focus on the recurring offer. So when you only have one-time offers, you end up having to have that feast and famine where one month you might make 120K or 80K. The next month you might only make 30K. Try to build a team with that level of stability or instability. But what you really want to do is use the intro offer as an entry point to get your foot in the door and then upsell your clients to a recurring service offer, kind of like a 1-2 punch. So for example, at Matt's agency, over 90% of the recurring clients that he had already bought the one-time offer. So without having the one-time offer there, you have no idea how many clients he would have had. I doubt he would have gotten anywhere near as many. The intro offer is what got his foot in the door literally 90% of the time. So having that intro offer there is one of the best things that you can do to get more clients and also solve agency killer number 1, which is that no one knows who you are. So when you're selling this offer that gets a lot of people interested and gets a lot of people to work with you and start trusting you, a lot of people start knowing who you are. So you get more referrals, you get more leads, you get a bigger close rate, all of this good stuff that gives you that virtuous flywheel. And then you get the back end systems set up so you can sell them on the recurring service. But really, the best part about the intro offer, you can really apply this to any business. It literally makes it 100 times easier to sell your recurring service, no matter what your service is, because you deal with a much larger base of customers who already trust you. So the easiest person to sell to is the person who has already bought your stuff. It's your customers. And then once you have a large group of people who trust you, selling is so much easier. You can literally close these recurring deals in the chat compared to having 50 sales calls and trying to sell them for 12 months. And it makes a huge difference. So what you want to know is around 10 to 30% of your clients who buy your intro offer ideally will become monthly recurring clients if you have optimized processes. And like I said, after all, the easiest person to sell to is someone who has just recently bought from you. The key is that your intro offer naturally leads to your recurring offer. Again, for example, in Matt's case, he charged $2,500 for one landing page or $5,000 for 3 landing pages and guaranteed a 10% increase in conversion rate. If these landing pages helped them increase their conversion rate, he would sell them on the recurring services. The recurring services were CRO, so conversion rate optimization. Basically means you're going to run A/B tests on their site to increase their conversion rate. If they do 10 mil a year in revenue, you increase their conversion rate by 10%. Quite often that's basically an increase in $1 million a year you're making them. So you can see how valuable that is. And he charged between 8 to 15K a month for this, starting with a 3-month contract. You can imagine how difficult it is to sell this type of offer to someone who doesn't know, like, and trust you. Hey, stranger, want to give me 10K a month to run some tests that might work? Not a good offer. So if you only had his main recurring service, his agency probably would have likely been a fraction of the size or profit. However, because he proved himself with a landing page already, it was much easier to selling out a larger pool of people who trusted him. Also, the side benefit there is that when you have a one-time offer, you can monetize a lot more of your leads. So how many times you get on the phone with a prospect only to realize that they would never afford your recurring service? It takes a lot of time for you, wastes their time, and it makes it even harder to basically market your services because you're getting all these unqualified leads. Let's say you spend 10K on ads and half the leads are unqualified. You may as well have not spent 5K of that. It's just basically been lit on fire. But when you have a 1-2 punch setup where you have your intro offer and your recurring service, you can actually sell that one-time offer to almost every single lead who comes through your pipeline. Almost every business owner I know can afford $2,500 if it was going to get them an ROI. So what happens is you disqualify less leads, make more offers, and close more deals. And then you can upsell 10 to 30% of those of the intro offers to your recurring service instead of just selling your recurring service to cold customers. So Matt has used this and I've deployed this with my clients like crazy. So Angus closed 15K of setups or 14.5 of setups in 24 hours. And before 1000X, he would have just told them they're unqualified. So that's 15K that's just come from thin air. That's pretty juicy. Nazar has been using this to make money, closing a couple deals there. Don has been running numbers and made an extra 4K just selling deliverability fixes, basically just consulting in some segments. So it's really high profit margin too. Michael closed a $3,500 partial flow build, closed them over the weekend after following up with text. And Mohammed closed a 3-month project for 12.5K on a new offer. Boom. Works like crazy. So you want to use that 1-2 punch. One thing that you absolutely do not want to do, and this part really riles me up. Not so long ago, I was talking with a friend who was telling me about how his business is stagnated for 2 years or so. He'd kind of tried selling everything. So he'd been selling funnels, sales processes, recruiting, lead gen, all this random stuff. And it was probably the third or fourth time that we'd had this conversation, kind of like a recurring conversation where we'd catch up every few months. He'd be like, oh, we're stagnating. I'm like, oh, what are you doing? What's going on? And he was kind of just like, this is so frustrating. I feel like I have the skills. I feel like I'm constantly seeing everyone else win. I'm not winning. Why is this not going right for me? What am I doing wrong? And he was talking about how his prospects kind of never understood his offer. He was always struggling with getting leads. And even if he did close a client, he never really fulfilled consistently. And to be honest, I went through a similar thing at the start of my own agency where you're trying to stand out and you're doing a fundamental mistake that you absolutely have to avoid. You do not stand out by doing new stuff or different stuff. You stand out by being better. So this was the biggest thing. I was trying to offer all these different services, and so was he. He was trying to differentiate by offering more services, ads, funnels, and lead gen. And this is why that was a problem. Number one, nobody cares how you get them results. They just care if they get the result. So for operational efficiency, you want to actually do the maximum results with the minimum work by focusing on the highest leverage tasks. So for example, one time I helped an email marketing agency who was booking 3 calls a month start booking 40 calls a month and start signing 6 or 7 clients per month just by changing their offer and their cold email scripts and their lead sourcing strategy. So this took me a few hours and the rest was done by my team, and the results started coming through in 7 days. That is 1,000,000 times better than saying we're going to do ads, funnels, sales process, we're going to do all this crazy stuff. That's all cool on paper. That sounds like you're delivering a great offer because there's a lot of stuff. Sounds like you're getting a lot of stuff, but what's the result? They only care about the result. This was one of my happiest clients because the result came so quickly. He didn't give an expletive about how we did that. He just, oh my God, there's so many calls on my calendar. Oh my God, I'm getting so many leads. This is so good. I don't care. I don't care if it's from ads. I don't care if it's from email. I don't care about my sales process. Did I make money? That's the only thing that matters. Then number 2, when you're trying to sell too much stuff at once, you reduce the number of people that you can sell to. So it's rare that someone needs help with ads and sales at the same time. Still happens, but it's much more rare. And most of the time, when someone has a problem, it's a specific thing. So it might be, well, my ads aren't working as well as they could, or my XYZ is not working as well. My sales process is broken. I need to recruit someone, whatever it is. Most of the time, it's a specific thing rather than a broad thing. And the people that have these broad, massive issues are not the types of clients that you want if you want to scale. So just keep that in mind. And next, you reduce operational efficiency because you deliver a different thing for every client. So for example, if you do cold email, ads and funnels, you have to do basically all the stuff. So you have to have employees who do all those things, or you have to do all those things yourself. And you might hear that and think, well, yeah, more work and more money equals good. But in reality, it's about 3 times the work for about 1.5 times the pay. So it actually costs you money because of how inefficient it is. You might be able to say, yeah, well, I do all this stuff. Let's say you do cold email, ads and funnels. Individually, you might charge $3,000 a month for each of these things, but it's going to be very difficult to charge $9,000 a month for each of these things. That's a much harder sale than saying, I'm just going to do one of these things and deliver some really good results. Does that make sense? You might be able to charge like 6, but you're doing double or triple the work. So it's like, doesn't make sense. It's not a good trade. Next, you also lose marketing efficiency because you're talking about all this random stuff in your content instead of solving a specific problem for a specific customer. And it makes it really hard to run ads, makes it really hard to do outbound, all this stuff. Next, harder to sell a full stack solution compared to, a full solution to a narrow problem, because a full stack solution, is a high commitment and high risk. So remember what we were talking about. If there's high risk, you have to reverse all that risk. Or you can just do low risk and you don't really have to reverse any risk because it's just inherently lower risk. But if you're a stranger trying to convince someone to take over multiple parts of my business, I am just going to say no. Simply put, I'm just going to say no. And I think most business owners that are in an advantageous position would probably agree with me that you don't want a stranger taking over all these different parts of your business. Doesn't really make sense. And then number 6, your skill set in a full stack solution gets beaten by someone who focuses on one thing, because they become 10 times better over time because their energy isn't going in all these different directions. So that's why you want to stand out by being better and not by doing all this new and random stuff. It really doesn't work. It's all about the results that you can get for your clients. So what you want to do is upsell your clients to a recurring service. That is a good idea. But offering a lot of different services, so for example, selling paid ads and then adding CRO, can be a distraction and negatively impact efficiency. Makes it harder to find people who can do both paid ads and CRO, which means you either have to do everything yourself or build out separate departments who can handle each thing. That can be good when you have a lot more money and you have the margin for that. But doing that early is going to destroy a lot of the profit that you're taking home, and it's going to be really hard if you're not already making a lot of money. So my recommendation would be focus on creating a really strong intro offer and then maximizing how many of those clients turn into recurring clients. And the intro offer acts as the foot in the door where you can still obviously make good profit. And then your recurring offer gives you that stability and long-term MRR. And you can do this with a really simple style. And then on to the next, the funnel. So when it comes to your funnel, basically a sales funnel mirrors and accelerates the journey of a stranger becoming a customer. So the goal of the sales funnel is to deliver the right message at the right time so you can accelerate the buyer journey and then get more clients. That's why it's called a funnel. You're basically funneling prospects through the various stages of the customer journey until you're left with only those who are qualified and willing to make a purchase. So you're trying to get people as far away as possible from their awareness level, from how willing they are to buy, and you're trying to give them stuff that's going to accelerate how quickly they get into that point where they're like, all right, I'm going to pay this guy. So the reason that's so important is because at any given moment, only a really small percentage of your prospects are going to be ready to buy. So the more that you can convert, the more you can nurture them towards buying, obviously the faster you're going to be able to turn them into a paying customer. So basically the better your funnel is, the more money you're going to make. In this section, you're going to learn how to build a top 1% sales funnel. And this is the exact funnel that Matt used to scale so quickly. So what we're going to cover is, number 1, the best 4 ways to get traffic and leads. Number 2, how to get prospects moving towards you rather than begging for their business constantly. Number 3, how to automate 80% of the sales process and avoid wasting time on unqualified leads. And finally, how to make it all work together and sign clients like clockwork. So here's an example of the average agency funnel right here. So SEO can be replaced with basically any traffic source, so outreach, Twitter, whatever. SEO to a recurring service. It's a pretty basic one. That's what most people do. And then you look at the 1 mil a year profit funnel. This is what you really want to do. It looks pretty complex, but you can break it down. I don't even want to focus on this too much. I know it's pretty sexy and it looks pretty, fun and cool, but really what you want to do is break it down so it's simple and it doesn't look too overwhelming. Really what it is getting traffic from paid ads, content, outreach, and partnerships, having lead magnets to get, basically nurture those leads, and then converting that traffic from a workshop, VSL, newsletter, community, appointment setter, or piece of content. Because really what we're trying to do is make leads fall from the sky. So for example, Angus has been booking calls from qualified prospects and he doesn't even know where they're coming from. So he even asked them and they didn't even know either. So he just said, I don't know, I'm just seeing your stuff. You're just everywhere. I'm just on your email list. I'm just here. I'm just around. I've just watched your content. I've watched your stuff. But to do this, you have to understand the fundamentals. But usually what people do is they see a sales funnel, they run an ad to a landing page for a few days and they decide it's not working and quit after spending like $200 on ads. And they say, paid ads don't work for me. They send a few emails and say, outreach doesn't work for me. Or they do one thing for 10 minutes and then say, the strategy, it doesn't work for me. It doesn't work. The real reason it didn't work is because you probably didn't have the necessary infrastructure to make it work. The ad and the landing page are really just the tip of the iceberg. Because when you see a funnel that makes money, 99% of the time, it's because of the stuff on the back end, not the stuff on the front end that you can see. So most of the time, it's the stuff here in the funnel that makes it work and makes it profitable, and not the stuff that you see at the tip of the iceberg. So for example, when you see someone like Tai Lopez, Sam Ovens, etc., over the years running these really big sales funnels, you need to know that they don't actually always make all their money when they sell you the first time. In many cases, they actually break even or lose money. Then after that happens, they come out with courses, masterminds, offers, etc. over the next 6 months, 2 years or longer, and sell to those existing customers at a huge profit. So the customer acquisition cost was already paid on the first sale. Now they have this really valuable base of customers, and they can sell to the rest of them at 80% margin, even taking into account commissions and labor and fulfilling the goods. And that's fine. That's awesome. You can do that. But for you to get into paid ads and sales funnels and not understand that that's the case, is going to lose you thousands and thousands of dollars, and it's going to make you think that it doesn't work in reality when it does. But again, it's key to understand this. You cannot afford to miss parts of the funnel. If you don't have the foundation right, none of this is going to work. So many people try and copy someone else's funnel, like I said, without realizing the stuff that actually works is often on the back end. They can't replicate a funnel after they see it and try and copy it. Like funnel hacking was really promoted by Russell Brunson, and that is true. You can kind of model off other people, and it's really easy to look at some ads and say, I could do that. But without the stuff on the back end, it's the same as trying to drive a car that has no wheels, aka never going to work. To get the car to drive properly, you need the tires, you need the steering wheel, you need the engine, you need all the stuff, because the parts are useless on their own. Putting them together to make the car is what makes them useful, and it's really the same with your funnel. No point running ads if you don't have your email flows, if you don't have your thank you page, if you don't have your content, if you don't have your offers ready to go. And like I said, to break it down a bit easier, we can go through step by step. So there are 4 main ways of getting traffic: paid ads, content, outreach, and partnerships. Super important. Like I said, don't just settle for just one, even if you were really good at it. So a lot of people, they might have content as their main channel. They might be like, yeah, I'm really good at paid ads. I'm really good at X. And that might mean, oh, well, I don't want to do the other channels because I'm really good at this one. That's great. Put most of your bandwidth into one of them. For example, if you're really good at paid ads, put most of your bandwidth towards paid ads. But then even just making one YouTube video a week, doing a little bit of light outreach, and having some light partnerships are going to make everything work so much better. It will make your paid ads work so much better, and make all of the things more effective, that it is worth the small investment to each of these different buckets, because they all lift each other up. And I'll talk a bit more about that in a second. But for example, who do you think is more likely to get a response when cold emailing? A, someone who has never heard of you before, or B, someone who's seen your ads, downloaded your lead magnets, follows you on Twitter and YouTube, and has watched or read 50 things from you before? The answer is really obvious. That's why you want to have all the things, because it's like having more bullets in the gun. If you have all these bullets in the gun, you can just fire from all angles, and then you're everywhere. And then all of a sudden people are like, I don't even know where I first saw you. You just kind of become this figure on the internet, and then they trust you, and then they buy, and it's pretty cool. So traffic channel number 1 is paid ads. When it comes to paid ads, most people mess this up by promoting the wrong stuff and just doing the wrong stuff. So for context, before Matt sold his agency, they're doing $6K a day or $7K a day in paid ads, and doing so profitably. And something to note is that even if you have $900K a month, you can't just burn $6K a day in ad spend with no plan to get it back. And really, that's quite stupid. But like I said, what most people do is they drive their ad traffic towards a page with a video on it that says book a call. But that's not really what you want. You want to drive your traffic instead towards a lead magnet or a low ticket digital product. Some people talk about self-liquidating offers, which is where they sell like a digital product to get leads for free, quote unquote. But this is a much more complex thing than what people usually say. And they really have no idea what it requires or KPIs they need to hit for it to make sure it doesn't just light money on fire, because that is the risk. To get a self-liquidating funnel to work, it takes testing, it takes running different ads, A/B testing, landing pages to get the economics done right. Really, all you are doing with the self-liquidating funnel is trying to dial in the economics, because if you get it wrong, you are burning money. If you get it right, you'll make a lot of money, but it's key to understand what you're getting into first and set expectations correctly. Really, there are 4 main types of funnels you want to choose from, but you can start with just picking one. So we have the paid product funnel, where you have an ad going to a product from $10 to $100. Then you have some sort of one-click upsell to get your AOV up to $100 ideally. Then you have a thank you page. Ideally, what the thank you page is, it promotes your offer in some way where you can get them on a conversion mechanism. We'll talk about conversion mechanisms in a second. But basically what you want is a direct sign up to something like a pre-recorded webinar, VSL, etc. You want an email sign up. You want an appointment setter sign up where your appointment setter gets their details. And you also want content and a webinar sign up as well. So this is what you can do to make them more aware of your offer. Then they go to the webinar, and then you send them to a productized or intro offer, and then you can upsell them after that. So it's a process that you really have to follow step by step. If you don't have any of these things, it's not going to work. So for example, it's really important that you have this upsell, the one-click upsell here, and you have that dialed in, because if you just didn't have that, you're only selling stuff for 10 to $100. A lot of times that's not profitable, but you're going to recoup a lot of your ad spend here. So it's really important that you have it. Then you're also going to recoup a lot of your ad spend here as well. And a lot of your profit is going to be made here at step fucking 5. So it's really important that you have it. Most people just do the ad to the landing page and they think, oh, well, that didn't work. So you can see why you'd be like, oh, well, no shit, it didn't work. Next, group funnel. So you sell a service where they need to see some results before fully trusting you. This is when you have a group funnel. So you go add, email opt-in, and phone opt-in to a thank you page, and then auto redirect them to the group after the delay. Might be a Facebook group or whatever. And then off the opt-in, if they don't join, you can send them to an email flow or an SMS flow in 5 minutes or less. Then in the group, you can have things like appointment setters, retargeting, email flows, content, CTAs, etc. And you're trying to get them on a sales call for your intro offer. The next type of funnel is a newsletter funnel. So you have, a very high price service or a long sales cycle, or you sell a service that's only needed in an emergency. So I'd recommend this for maybe in a recruiting offer or a VA placement offer or something like that. So you have the ad, you have the email only opt-in page. It's important that you don't have a phone number on the opt-in page if you're trying to promote a newsletter, because that's going to kill your conversion rate. Then you have a co-registration pop-up like a Sparkloop that can recoup some ad spend there. Then you have a thank you page that makes them aware of the offer. Then you send an email 3 to 5 times per week to a webinar or a book a call. Then you have the productized intro offer. Then you have the upsell to recurring. So you can see here, there's kind of a common theme where you need all of these bullets in the chamber that are going to be able to allow you to compete, rather than just having unprofitable ads from day one and then freaking out and wondering why it's not working. It doesn't work because you haven't put in the work to make it work. So there's a flyer right there. Next, webinar or VSL funnel. So you have a specific training case study or presentation that you can show them to convince them to buy from you. This is very, very difficult. I've done VSL funnels and webinar funnels. It takes really good copywriting skills. You can do it. It really, really works like crazy when it does, but they are hard. So add, lead magnet, email only sign up, thank you page, and then the webinar sign up or something promotes the webinar sign up, direct sign up, similar to the other funnel before. You have the direct sign up, email flows, appointment setters, content, and the actual, the sign up thing itself. And then the webinar going to the productized or intro offer. So most of the time you can direct traffic to from ads to lead magnets and then promote your conversion mechanism on the thank you page and promote your offer with email flows, basically in the simplest way possible. You just run the ad to the landing page. Landing page has a lead magnet, and then you have a bunch of email flows and you add them to your email list. After that, this is a quick overview of the actual stuff that you can have in your emails. So you can take a screenshot of that if you want. Let me just fix up that on the screen so you can get the full thing. 3, 2, 1, screenshot. Okay, that's enough screenshotting time for you. Moving on. To do this effectively though, you need lead magnets. And a lead magnet is one of the most important key cogs to this marketing funnel. So a lead magnet is a marketing tool that generates leads by offering a long form resource in exchange for a prospect's contact information. It might be an ebook, white paper, template, guide, checklist, video, downloadable assets, etc. And you can see here, hey, Mr. Lead, would you like this document? Yes. Prospect says yes. Here's my email. I'll be willing to make that trade. Offering a lead magnet basically just makes it 100 times more likely someone's going to give you their information. And if someone doesn't know you, doesn't trust you, doesn't like you, pretty unlikely they're going to give you their email unless you give them a sick offer. Wouldn't even make sense to do so. So to get the maximum amount of leads, you want multiple lead magnets, not just one. Good example is Alex Hormozi. It's not just $100 million offers. It's $100 million offers, leads, sales, money models, etc. And there are probably going to be more. Not sure what his plans are. Alex, if you're watching this, let me know. But the reason you need multiple lead magnets is because the same people are going to see multiple lead magnets. So each lead magnet brings them further and further into our funnel and makes them trust us more as we are giving more value. The more great content you have available, the more you are positioned as an expert. So a good thing to note is that if experts have lots of content available and we know that expert positioning is going to get us clients, then we need to do the stuff that experts do. So that means having great content available. The second reason is because the lead magnets are going to appeal to multiple different people. So although there might be a couple of steps or 10 steps or problems within your service, not every person is going to struggle with all of these. So in the example of Alex Hormozi, some people are going to struggle with their offer. Some people are going to struggle with leads. Some are going to be struggling with sales, and some will be struggling with money models. So if we want to appeal to all of these different people at different times, we want to handle all of these problems with our different lead magnets. So another example with agency stuff is if you do YouTube growth, not everyone is going to need their scripts fixed. Not everyone's going to need their thumbnails fixed. Not everyone's going to need their titles fixed. People are going to need help with different stuff. So we want to promote these different solutions to different problems, so we appeal to all of the potential audiences within our target audience. So for example, 100 of your ideal prospects, some might not be able to get leads. Some might not be able to monetize leads. Some might not be able to fulfill. Some might not be able to focus. Some might not be able to scale on cold traffic. You have these different problems, and the only way to catch these different subsections of your market is by using these different lead magnets. When it comes to coming up with the ideas, this is obviously the first part, also one of the most important parts. And the reason for that is because people only download lead magnets when they solve a painful problem. So you can optimize the headline, change the landing page, and make the best lead magnet ever. But if something's boring and the topic isn't, the right topic, the customer's not going to care. The prospect is not going to care. They're not going to download it, and your ads are going to suck. So the key is that your lead magnet solves a painful problem for your ideal customers. For example, there are a bunch of problems with starting a YouTube channel. How do I set up my lights? How do I make good titles? How do I make thumbnails? How do I do SEO? How do I know what these numbers mean? Is my channel right? Is my description correct? How do I maximize watch time? Should I post this everywhere? Long form, short form scripts, video ideas, all this stuff. There's a bunch of problems. So if you can solve these problems using your lead magnets, customers start loving you. So these are your lead magnet ideas. The problems with your service are the lead magnet ideas. So all of a sudden, this is a good example from the YouTube comments section, but the same rules apply. Future Cortex says, every day you're the man, Matthew. Your videos are void of bullshit, and I appreciate your honesty and your failures and not giving up and removing self-limiting beliefs and inspecting decision-making processes for excess ego influences. Like, that's the best. Like, you want people in your market and even people outside your market to say that, because all it does is build your reputation and help you get more clients and help more people know who you are. Really important. And this brings up the reason why you should use lead magnets instead of a traditional book a call funnel, because going through lead magnets is going to outperform book a call or submit an application funnels in every scenario. Because number one, they don't know who you are and what you offer a lot of the time. They don't trust you. Number two. Number three, you only capture the email address of people who book a call. And also, when you do lead magnets, even if people don't buy from you, it really builds your reputation, really builds your brand in the market. So it's not just things like, oh, hey, here's some money. It's, hey, I really appreciate you. This is the type of person that's going to give you reviews, give you, referrals. They talk about you. They expand your influence just by being there and having consumed the value without paying you a cent. But you make a lot of money from that in the long term just by having the branding side of things. Really, there are usually two people who book, or two types of people who run book a call funnels. Usually number one, beginners who don't know what they're doing. They kind of just run it. And then number two, people who have a $1,000 to $5,000 productized service or offer and a high ticket recurring offer or upsell they can feasibly sell to a customer within 90 days of the initial booked call to recoup that ad spend. The second one is a very niche and specific use case and is usually the only situation where book a call funnels can compete with funnels flowing through lead magnets. And the thing about book a call funnels is that they really typically get calls a lot faster and more predictably than lead magnet funnels, but they don't always have the same durability and long-term focus as a lead magnet funnel. So it's not as if you have to stop running book a call funnels, but it's important that you don't want to rely on them long-term. They're also quite fragile, so just keep that in mind. So to summarize, for paid ads, you need a great creative that promotes a lead magnet or digital product. You need a clean ad campaign setup. You need a landing page, a thank you page, email flows, and a great offer if you want it to work. That stuff's really important. Next is the content stuff. So want to know something nuts? We were able to add 10,000 B2B subscribers on a brand new channel in less than 75 days and collect $500K in cash from a YouTube channel without any fancy editing, without crazy clickbait titles, without proper thumbnails, without YouTube strategy, or any of that BS. In the last year, I've partnered with two YouTube agencies as well that grew pretty fast. So the guy on the left went from 15K a month to 100K a month in 7 months and is now above that. And the guy on the right went from 0 to 30K a month in 60 to 70 or 90 days or something like that. I think it was 60, but I think I have 90 somewhere. So I don't even know. 60 to 90, just say 90. We'll say 90. And during that time I worked with him, I picked up a few things about YouTube. So I was writing a lot of copy about YouTube and trying to implement it at the same time on my own channel. But at the start, making content was really hard. So I was running a business, working all the time, always running out of time in the day to get it done, even though I knew I had to. And I was kind of thinking like, well, I'm not a guru. Content can't be that important. I don't even need that many views anyway. They're B2B viewers. I don't need, that much. I just make a bit of content, doesn't need that many views. But when we were launching 1000x leads, we decided to put a focus on YouTube just to see what happened. And the reason we did that and we chose that was because video content was so powerful. We knew that. We knew we could repurpose all the videos and we could also repurpose the written content into tweets, lead magnets, emails, and all the rest. And now, after doing it, I believe YouTube is the backbone of any good content system. And also because all the experts are on YouTube, all the biggest experts are there. Because if someone watches hours of footage of you, it's almost impossible they don't buy from you at some stage, or at least don't grow an affinity to you unless you're really ugly and stupid, which I might be. So if you don't like me, then I'm going to, cry myself to sleep every night. But I also spent hours trying to crack YouTube and studying it. So I thought, screw it, let's just try it. Let's just try it. Even if we are ugly and stupid, we'll just figure it out. And not in the way YouTube guys do it though. So I really never resonated with the stuff that everyone on YouTube does it with, the Mr. Beast stuff, getting an editor, make it look fancy, make it have, super ridiculous high production value. I really just wanted to focus on two things. Number one was the utility and the value of the video. And number two was the packaging and the title of the video and how it looks presentation wise. Everyone says, go make content. You need to make content. And most of the time it's kind of just fluff. Really, these are the only two things you need to focus on. And even between those two things with packaging and utility is so much more important anyway. So it's not the algorithm, it's not YouTube SEO, it's not posting schedules. Utility is the only thing that actually matters because B2B viewers, as in businesses, they want to learn stuff to get value from their business or for their business. Otherwise, usually they're just wasting time they could have spent working. And the main reason that this is the case is because their time, a business owner's time, is worth way more than an average consumer. And there are also way less business owners than non-business owners, which contributes to lower views, but you can't look at that as a key metric. So business owners typically busier. So for example, if you make a shitty video and waste an hour of a B2B viewer's time, it might cost them $1,000. If you compare that to a 20-year-old's time, that might be worth $20 because they work at Chipotle. So if you are selling B2B, that means you have to drive more value per second than a B2C viewer because your customer's time is worth more. So to drive the maximum amount of utility with the least amount of work, because we all know you're not a full-time content creator, you've got shit to do, you want to find a content format that works for you so you can consistently create. For us, we posted 60 plus long-form YouTube videos in the last 90 odd days. And we would not have been able to do this without creating templates, frameworks, and systems for things like ideation, scripting, recording, etc. This is really important. This is one of your biggest focuses, is make yourself repeatable templates, frameworks, etc. You don't need to be Mr. Beast. You don't need to go Mr. Beast mode and get 150 million views, but you do need to put in effort. Like I said, it's just about getting the maximum return for minimum effort, like we have done in the last couple of months. Utility 101 is to make something useful. Usually the viewer has to learn something. So the definition of learning that I got from Hormozy is same situation, different behavior. So if I show my little brother how to mow the lawn, I pull a cord and get it running while I walk him through how to do it. And then he tries to do it himself and he doesn't know how, he didn't learn anything. So to make your videos valuable, the viewer usually has to learn something. And what that means is if they watch your video and then keep doing their email flows, landing pages, and YouTube videos the same way, it's most likely that you have failed. So to get your viewer to apply something, to change something, to learn something, they have to change their behavior and actually do the stuff. It's really important. So I'll ask you a question that might challenge you a bit, but try and remember the last 5 YouTube videos you watched. And write down 10 things that you now do differently as a result of watching those videos. So you watch those videos, you went away and you change your behavior. If you can't name those things that you'll do differently as a result of watching these recent videos, you may as well have been watching the new season of The Gentleman on Netflix because you didn't learn anything that's relevant to your situation. So one thing, a little writer downer of this, is that when you're watching YouTube videos, what I started doing was taking notes about what I was actually going to change because I found that I was wasting a lot of time watching videos and I didn't want my viewers to waste time when they were watching mine and Matt's. So a helpful point here is that you want to build up an understanding of copywriting and persuasion to be able to get people to buy into what you're teaching and actually take action from it. So this is already getting long. I'm not going to go on about, a ridiculous guide about copywriting, but there are 5 ways that we use to make your videos more actionable. And this is the stuff that you want to write down. Number 1 is include templates, guides, and frameworks that are plug and play so you can execute, so that people can execute faster and get more value from what you say. So for example, this document is linked in the description. All you have to do is put your email in and I'll send it to you immediately. So you can just read this and go through it over and over again if you want. Number two is, even if what you're teaching them takes a while to implement, for example, a Facebook ad campaign or this document right here is going to take a little while to implement, make sure there's 2 or 3 immediate action items that can be done within 24 hours. Again, we're getting meta, but even just learning that you want to write down a couple of action items from each YouTube video you watch is something that you can take away from this video and immediately implement. So another one of those might be, hey, in the headline, make sure to sell the result. This is going to increase your conversions by X. You want to include at least 2 to 3 of these immediate action items in your videos so people can get value from them. Number 3 is that make sure not to just tell them what to do, but also tell them why they should do it and provide evidence. The more convincing you are, the more likely they are to take action. For example, when you're doing your cold outreach, make sure to turn off open tracking. When open tracking is on, your deliverability goes down by X. So now, including that explanation for why they should do it gives them a much higher chance of actually applying the stuff. Number 4, give them an exact step-by-step plan on how to do the thing in the summary section of your video. The clearer the roadmap, the better. The more likely they take action and the more likely they get value. And then number 5 is remind them that the goal is for them to implement the stuff. They are business owners and, they need to be reminded a lot. I didn't finish that sentence because I need to be reminded a lot as well. Next, packaging 101. So with regards to packaging, that means titles, thumbnails, hooks, editing, and visuals, in my opinion. Basically the exact same thing as the packaging of a chocolate bar. With packaging, you're basically answering the question of why should I be interested in the video, while also determining how the viewer feels when they are watching your video. So you want to make it sexy enough for them to click, but not so sexy that it turns away a high sophistication viewer. So here are 2 examples of good packaging. So number 1, best offer in 2024, not a no-brainer. It's got a couple thousand views. And then this one was good as well. The 41 minutes of the best cold email training to help you get clients. So it's just a clear value proposition, really. And as long as you have that, you're going to be putting yourself in the best position to win. And really, what you have to know is that content is one of the highest ROI things you can do as a business owner because it is going to make everything else work so much better. And to start, I suggest you learn YouTube's basics and then use this content system for all the other platforms, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. So this is going to be in the document. I've got a Gamma doc linked into this document right here. So like I said 10 seconds ago, download this document in the link in the description and basically go and get the free doc here. So it's like an extra bonus. It's going to turn you into a content machine. Next, we have outreach, traffic channel number 3. So some people think cold outreach is spammy or that they're too good to outreach. I'm really not one of those people. A lot of times it can transform your business pretty quickly. There's really nothing else that allows you to directly contact people who you know for a fact are your ideal customers with any message you want. And this has allowed me to sign 5 to 10 clients per month, pretty much straight away, like I said earlier, within 7 days. It's really just about finding, number 1, the right people to reach out to. Number 2, the right sending infrastructure so you don't go to spam. Number 3, the right message to send. Number 4, the right appointment setting process. When it's not working, it's likely that you're skipping one of these things, reaching out to the wrong people, whatever it may be. If you skip one, it's not going to work. No matter what message you send, you're never going to get a response if you're reaching out to the wrong people. If all the people you're reaching out to are below 30K a month, it's going to be really hard for them to pay you thousands per month. It just doesn't make sense. They won't have the budget. It's not going to be the same problems as the people making more money. So you always want to start with a lead list. After you have your leads, crafting the message is the difference between fuck off and just booked in your calendar, talk Tuesday. So the message is also important. It's all equally important. I think a big lesson or a big meta lesson of this entire sort of training is that there's stuff that you just have to non-negotiably do. Like you just have to have the lead list. You just have to have the right message. It's not as if you can just do one thing or you can just do the easiest way to get clients or you can just do the easiest way to do things. There's stuff that you just have to do. It's never just that one thing. You need to know how to, what to say when they reply. You need to know how to position the offer, all of this stuff. So you can actually get them on the call and sell them stuff because it's a complex process. As much as I love simplicity, sometimes it's just not that simple. So for example, if I maybe can make this a little bit easier to see. No, I can't. What if I do that? No, not going to work. So it's a process between the cold email, the reply, the positive reply. You have a lead magnet, you have a loom, you have a call booked, you have a show rate, you have a qualification rate or an offer rate. You have how many clients did we close, and we have how many clients did we upsell. Each of these things is a different process that you have to optimize for, and there's different steps you have to take at each point. Like I want to say though, is the worst feeling is getting a bunch of replies and none of those turning into calls and clients. So you want to create a system to create and test scripts and also get the appointments on the back end. So all of your KPIs are in order to maximize the efficiency. This is the reason some people say stuff like cold outreach doesn't work. It's just because there's an entire system that you need to know how to operate. Again, if one of those things are out of order, for example, let's say you get replies, but you can't set appointments, the whole system breaks. If you don't know how to fix it, a lot of people just kind of default to like, yep, doesn't work for me, doesn't work in my industry, never going to work. But in reality, it's because you haven't tried properly yet. It's kind of like saying someone's stupid just because they failed a test that they didn't study for. Really, the sneaky variable here that I didn't mention as much is also that there's a deliverability factor that's very, very relevant right now. So if you land in spam, the short version is going to be that's impossible to succeed. No message or perfect lead list is going to save you from nobody seeing your email. So to avoid landing in spam, what we do is we use cold email softwares like Instantly AI to send emails from multiple accounts and also warm them up for 2 weeks before we start. Like I said, this is really relevant right now. It's getting a lot harder because a lot of people have learned to do it. So you have to be more careful than normal in the setup process and also be ready to spin up more accounts, more sending accounts if they burn. The other part of outreach is prospecting. So you have paid ads, outreach, content, cold email, all this stuff's awesome. Partnerships are awesome. But there is nothing that is better than 60 minutes of old school prospecting. We've used this to sign massive clients for our clients. So pulling up Twitter or LinkedIn, manually identifying who might be a good fit, messaging them, commenting on their stuff, getting to know them, doing outreach to them, sending them offers, sending them value until eventually they reach out and ask if you can help them. This is what keeps your pipeline safe against bad months. This is what keeps you safe from getting banned by Google on your sending accounts or your ad account gets banned or whatever it is. Being able to reach out to prospects and just talk to them and turn them into money is the highest ROI thing. Not the highest. I shouldn't be exaggerated too much. It's not the highest ROI thing because obviously you can run paid ads or you can have someone do it for you. But it is really, really high ROI because you can sign massive companies. Like we use this to sign the software company Clay for one of our clients. And we had a really strong hit rate of when we would do it. So really all you want to do is just do 60 minutes a day of prospecting and your pipeline never gets dry. Like it's probably one of the most foolproof methods. And I'm hoping that you can see that if you did all this stuff, you would never really have a problem with getting clients because it's starting to get to the point where it's like, yeah, this process kind of makes sense. I can see how this would work. And I'll tell you a bit more about how you can actually implement this stuff a little bit easier in a second, but we'll keep going. Now, don't get too tired yet. Traffic channel number 4 is going to be partnerships. So the last way that we want to get traffic and the most underrated is using partnerships. Partnerships is probably the most valuable way of getting new clients, but you have to do it the right way as always. So eventually, at the peak of Matt's agency, he had 77 partner agencies paying him $5K per month, which was $385K per month in total, which accounts for 30% of total revenue. The reason this is crazy is because almost no one does it. Like no one does this partnerships thing. So it's a bit of a blue ocean strategy. And partnerships are so good because if you get a client, you get a client. But if you get a partner, you can get 5, 10, 20, 25 clients, 100 clients or more. So to find partnerships, it's basically the same process as outreach. That you do to get clients. So for example, make a list of businesses who have the same ideal customers as you, but aren't competitors. So for example, if you do paid ads, you could partner with a landing page agency. Number 2, send them the perfect message and give them a good offer that reduces all the risk of working with you. Number 3, get them on a call. And number 4, close them on sending you their clients for a fee or white label, which means you fulfill that for their clients, but the clients still think it's them doing the work. So they rebrand your work as their own. And all of a sudden, if you can stack these on top of each other with the right message, the right lead list, the right closing strategy, and also managing the partnership correctly, you can get a lot of clients. You might be able to get a lot of clients. So the question here is if you had a profitable paid ad funnel, you had a content system that helped you generate 2 to 3 high quality long form videos a week, you had a cold outreach system that was booking 20 to 30 calls per month, and a system to get you partners who could get you 5, 10 to 20 clients each, do you think you'd be able to reach 1 million in profit per year? Or even if you had 1 or 2 of these, even if you had one of these working well, do you reckon you'd be able to reach $1 million in profit per year? I reckon you probably could. But there's a little bit more that you can do to really give yourself the best chance and really make it, like you want to make it almost stupid that you don't make that amount of money. And that's converting traffic. So when you get all these leads, you kind of have a lot of traffic from your paid ad funnel content and outreach and partnerships. So you want to leverage way of converting and nurturing that traffic, because remember, focusing on leverage is the key to scaling with such high profit. So you want to get your leads as close to the finish line, quote unquote, as you can without actually talking to them. And this is going to help you scale without needing to be highly skilled at sales or needing a sick sales team or being really good at sales. To close a prospect, really what happens is usually they need around 7 hours of exposure to you. And it's kind of like a power bar that charges up the more they see your stuff. So the more nurturing that gets done, basically the closer they are to filling up the power bar. So you want to do that without sitting on sales calls all day, which is what most people do. What you want to do is use conversion mechanisms and content. The problem is that most people don't even have 7 hours of stuff available anywhere. So I get it. You're probably running a business, probably have no time, etc. But if you can commit to creating this stuff, if you can't commit to creating this stuff, you may as well commit to not growing your business, because this is stuff that you need. It is absolutely necessary to have this stuff. And I think most people can agree. Getting warmer leads is a good idea. So let me just explain how to do it. Here's everything that you need to convert traffic at scale. So number one is a newsletter. So this is an audience you own, unlike YouTube subs or followers that you can contact whenever you want. So you can email your list 3 to 5 times per week with actionable insights and stories from your day-to-day. It's basically an unadulterated insight into how you think about your service, what you do for clients, and how much of a great business you run. You can basically tell them, hey, I'm super smart as much as you want. And as long as they're getting value, they will keep reading and loving you. And I'd ask you, do you think your prospects would like you more if you spoke to them every single day? Probably. Here's a reply I got. So, hey, Leo, love the newsletter. As you can probably see from my open rates, do you have any software or AI agencies in your program? Marco. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we do. So if you want to see what a good newsletter is, theacquisitionletter.com, top link in the description. You can also get this document as a bonus if you want to download it. But this is one of the best ways to not only send value to your customers, but also convert them over time. I think Matt would have closed thousands and thousands of customers from his newsletter in his time with it. Next, you can have an appointment setter. So an appointment setter is a professional who schedules calls between sales staff and prospective clients, ensuring that the important meetings are booked for the sales team. An appointment setter is basically kind of like a sweeper robot from the Robots movie. Their job is usually to sweep up any leads that come through the funnel that don't book in onto your calendar themselves. Might sound like an expense, but they can get paid 3 to 7K per month, and they can make you 5 or 10 times that amount. Mostly because there are so many leads coming through, and all they have to do is make sure none slip through the cracks. So this is that street sweeper from the Robots movie. They just go in and clean up getting all those leads from the funnel. Next is a video sales letter. So this is a short video on your site that shows your face, explains what you do and how you can help. This is kind of like being able to directly sell to every single prospect that hits your website without having to do it manually. And this is basically your turn. You turn your best 3 to 10 minute sales pitch into a quick video and then show it to as many people as you can. And we've seen this 5x the amount of people that book calls with you. So I'd ask you, would 5 times the amount of sales calls booked onto your calendar be helpful? I would probably think that it would. So you want to have a VSL. Next is a long-form case study or webinar. You can think of this as a pre-recorded webinar or long-form case study as a distributed sales call. And all the stuff you would go over, all the examples, all the results, all you'd show about the hacks, tricks, and information that you use to differentiate yourself, that can be shown how to on a 36-minute pre-recorded webinar. And the purpose of that is to sell them ahead of time so that when they eventually get on a call, like I said, that power bar is already 3/4 or 80% filled up, and all you have to do is go over the terms and ask for the close. You don't want to take too many calls where you have to waste time justifying why they should buy your service. You don't want to be salesy. You don't want to be like Jordan Belfort where you have to convince people that have no idea who you are to buy your stuff in 20 minutes. It's really, really hard. In an ideal world, they're sold ahead of time, and all you have to do is answer some questions, tell them the price, what to expect, and so on. And a webinar is going to help you achieve this ideal world where prospects know, like, and trust you. Next is a live workshop, which is a live demonstration of your skills, and you can choose a subcategory of your niche the same way you did with the lead magnets and showcase what you can do live. And the reason this is so high leverage is because normally you sell one-to-one. With this, you are selling one-to-many. So it's the same inputs with way higher outputs. And if you can master these, it's much, much more difficult to be poor. So that leads us to the question, do I really have to do all of that stuff covered? Like, I'm conscious this is a long video. Do I have to do all of that stuff? The truth is, no. You don't actually have to do all that stuff. I'll talk about this more in a second, but if you master even one of these things that I'm talking about, you will be able to sign your next 5, 10, or 20 clients. The thing is though, having the entire ecosystem running makes the rest of it more efficient. And you're gaining leverage at every step and building your kind of moat as you go. So if you didn't have any of this built yet, what I would do is I would just start building it over time, and it would begin to stack up. And the more work you do, the harder it is for your competitors to catch up, because there is really no traffic on the extra mile. That is just kind of a fact of life. Whenever you're going the extra mile, it is really, really lonely, because none of your competitors are there because they don't want to do the work. So to give you a summary of everything we've covered the 4 agency killers. So about nobody knowing who you are, not having enough leads, relying on referrals, having too many unqualified leads, and the bonus problem of not having the right habits and the right routines. We covered the keys to adding $1 million a year in profit, which was productized services, finding the right clients, decision-making and planning, and taking control of your future. We talked about changing behavior, because nothing else matters without the right type of person who can make that amount of money. The funnel doesn't matter, the niche doesn't matter, the offer doesn't matter. Nothing matters if your behavior is not dialed in. We talked about the types of offers that can actually get clients rather than just ruining your brand and turning people away. And we talked about reducing the risk instead of just reversing the risk, so you can sign up to 5 times more clients. We went over the funnel Matt used to hit $900K a month, and everything from the best 4 ways to get traffic, how to get prospects moving towards you using lead magnets rather than begging for business constantly, how to automate 80% of the sales process and avoid wasting time on unqualified leads, and how having the entire system working together will help you sign more clients like clockwork. And most importantly, we talked about how we've used all this stuff for ourselves to sign thousands of more clients and get hundreds of thousands of more leads, from using paid ads for Matt to grow a newsletter of 397,000 B2B subscribers actively, to using content to get leads and convert thousands of clients and make 500K in under 90 days on a new offer. And then also using cold outreach systems to get leads by sending thousands of messages to ideal prospects per day, to using the most leveraged form of outreach, partnerships, to sign over 385K in monthly recurring revenue at Matt's agency. So you probably think that we know a thing or two about getting leads. So whether you're looking to sign your first 10 clients or even your next 100 clients, do you think that everything I've covered so far will probably help you get where you want to go? Which leads me to my next point. So if everything I've shared so far sounds pretty interesting, it's probably time to buckle up, because you'll love what I'm about to cover next, especially if you're thinking, wow, that sounds great. How am I going to get all this stuff done? And especially if your brain feels like this guy right now, where you're just going all over the place. You're like, wow, I'm locked in, let's go. And even if your brain feels like this, where you feel a little bit overwhelmed and you're kind of like, I don't even know what to do next. Because you see, there are 2 ways this can go. The first way is that you can do this all by yourself and try and figure it out. That's what me and Matt did. Took him 12 years, millions of dollars in salaries, 2,000 clients, millions in ad spend, countless mistakes, and plenty of sleepless nights to perfect the learnings and frameworks I'm about to share. And it cost me burning my focus on both ends and making tons of mistakes that probably cost me high 6 figures or low 7 figures in income and probably a few years of time. Or you could choose the second option, and we could help you implement this in a fraction of the time it would take to do it yourself and take a personal interest in your success, by showing you everything we've learned from millions in sales and thousands of clients signed, and helping you install the exact systems, frameworks, and SOPs that helped Matt scale to over 900K in sales and exit 3 agencies across a decade of experience. Because you see, after Matt exited his last agency, he had to sign a non-compete, which means he's legally not allowed to start a new one for a certain time period, which meant that left him with a lot of free time on his hands to really reflect and think about what helped him scale so fast and turn all of those lessons into repeatable frameworks that are applicable to any niche. So since then, after using all those systems to help over 150, 175 clients, I don't even know how many, in 120 niches and 35 different countries, ranging from 10K a month to multiple 8 figures in revenue, we've been able to figure out a little couple of things. So it hasn't just worked for Matt, it's also worked for all those clients. So it's worked for Brandon, using this system to scale from 670K a month to 1 mil a month. It's worked for Angus, who added 54K a month in 6 months. Brian added 30K a month in 90 days. Worked for Max, who went from signing 2 clients a month to 7 clients per month. Jake went from 15K a month to 100K a month. Oscar added 40K a month in 4 months. Abdul went from 3 meetings a month to 40 meetings a month and 6 to 7 clients per month in 30 days. So it's pretty cool stuff. But even after revealing all that stuff from our internal systems that have helped us do all that cool stuff, it's still not even scratching the surface about what's required to scale in 2024. And the stuff we've covered today is just 1% of what we've learned in over a decade of advertising, millions in ad spend, and salaries and multiple agency exits. I go on for all day about funnel, sales process, lead generation, the whole nine. You're probably thinking, when is this guy going to shut up? But even then, it still wouldn't get you where you want to go, because even if you had all the information, it still wouldn't be personalized to your business, and you still have to figure out all this stuff on your own, which would take years of trial and error. You lose a ton of money in the process, and you still have a lot of questions like, how do I make my offer that gets my clients begging to work with me? How do I make this whole system work together instead of just having a bunch of stuff everywhere? How do I make sure I can manage all this stuff instead of just getting overwhelmed? What's the best landing page? How do I make the ads convert? What do I say to prospects to get them to respond? How do I get all this work done when I don't have all the time in the world? How much of this can I outsource? How do I get my team to buy into this? Will this even work for me? You probably have more questions now than even when we first started. So instead of fumbling around trying to do all this at once, what if I just gave you all the systems that you need? What if I just gave you access to people who have done this before? And what if you just never had to worry about getting clients ever again? Would it be valuable if we could help you 10x your business like Angus, or add 30K a month in 90 days like Brian, or help you scale to 1 mil a month like Brandon, or double your business in 79 days like Max? How much would that be worth to you if we could do that stuff? Especially if you're getting access to Matt, who has exited his agency 3 times, including scaling to 900K a month in less than 12 months, especially if that. But before we get into particulars and what that would look like, let me introduce you to something I like to call the 1000x leads system. And I'll zoom out so you can see this whole thing. It is a beautiful, beautiful thing right here. Oh, no, it's not going to work. You're not going to be able to see. So the 1000x leads system. So you can see a lot of stuff on the screen right there. It is pretty juicy. What if I scroll up back here? So like I mentioned earlier, after Matt exited his agency, he had some time on his hands. So enough time to distill all of his learnings into repeatable frameworks that we've applied to over 120 niches now. And then I've added my stuff on top of that, from growing agencies to 100K a month in under a year, as well as working with 300 plus agencies and B2B companies. So here's what you're going to get. Let me just tell you. You're going to get the offers masterclass. So you can 5 to 10x your business overnight. It's going to show you exactly what offers to make, how to make them, how to position your intro offer, how to position your recurring offer. You're going to get the lead magnet system that's going to help you double your leads and double your business. It's going to get the paid ad system that's going to help you get as many clients as you want on command. The outreach system that helps you book 10 to 30 calls per month reliably and consistently, so you can turn it up and down as you please. It's going to show you the messages to send, how to set up the infrastructure so you don't go to spam, and all the stuff you need to build lists. You're going to get the content system that helps make you niche famous and build your reputation like crazy. The same one we use to collect 500K in 70 days. The partnership system that shows you how to do the most leveraged form of outreach and get 10 clients from just one good partner. So you need to know how to reach out to the partners, what to say, how to pitch them, how to manage the partnership, etc. You're going to get the VSL framework that converts leads into sales calls like crazy. So that's an exact framework that we've used to book 100 plus sales calls on cold traffic. You're going to get the live workshop framework used to sell to dozens of people at once. The newsletter system that built a 397,000 person email list and converted hundreds and hundreds of clients. The community roadmap we've used to grow a 2,400 person group and sign dozens of clients from. The appointment setter training we've used to close 7, 8, and 9-figure clients. And the content conversion system we've used to turn viewers into buyers. If that sounds like something that you would pay 10 to 20K for, then good, because we're not done yet, because there's a lot of work to do. We have to make sure you're firing on all cylinders. What I'm about to share with you is going to help you get some of that stuff done, which is going to allow you to 2 to 3x the amount of work you get done. So basically the same as if there were 2 to 3 versions of you running around and completing tasks. And as living proof, in the last 7 days, I've written over 20,000 words of copy and counting in a document. So that's over 175 pages with a size 14 font. And for context, Hormozi's book is only 45,000 words. So I've written just under half a book in 7 days. And don't worry, I'm not saying size matters, but what I am saying is that in 7 days, I've done a ton of focused work and gotten a lot done. And the only reason that's relevant for you is because I've only been able to do that by following our productivity system. So in my estimation, every month I've been using this system, my output has doubled in comparison to my previous month. So if you complete double the work compared to normal, it is the exact same as having another version of you who works alongside you and doubles your output. So for example, if I write 500 words per hour and then I learn to focus and write 1,000 words per hour, that is a double of output with the exact same amount of time. And I'd be willing to bet that most of you don't feel like you are that good at focusing, which means you can probably get better at it quite easily. The same way when you first start out in the gym, it's really easy to start getting better at lifting because you haven't really tried yet. You have to really try to get better at productivity. So if you did nothing else, I've talked about at all in this document except adopt this productivity system and threw away all the frameworks and strategies and didn't even look at them, you'd get a clone of yourself who doubles your work output just by following our system. It might sound simple, but when you have someone holding you accountable, it works beautifully. And people give away 50% of their company to a business partner just to get someone to help them with their work. But what if you could just do that for a fraction of the price? You don't have to give away 50% of your company. You could do it without spending crazy money. It's probably not a bad deal. Like Michael, who said, I've done more in the past 3 days than I did in the last 45 days. If you had all that stuff, do you think you could get where you want to go? Would it be reasonable that you'd probably make more money if you went through the program? Even if you use one of these individual systems, cold email, paid ads, offers, even one of these things could be worth $5,000, $10,000 or $20,000 to you, even 5 times that. So we would have no issue with asking you to pay multiple 5 figures for these SOPs and infrastructures that Matt used to scale to $900K a month. Even if you wanted to pay for 1 hour of Matt's time, it would cost you $2,000. Over the 12 months of access that you'd get to the program with us, it would be reasonable to say you'd get at least 10 hours of his time, which adds up to $20,000. So if we could save you years of time, millions of dollars of salaries, hundreds of sleepless nights, just figuring out what to do, would that be worth 20K? You really have to think about, like, this is costing you a lot of money to not know how to make $1 million a year. So if you think about it that way, 20K is actually pretty cheap, especially when you take into account Matt's time. Especially when you consider that this stuff's been able to be used to generate $900,000 per month in revenue, not to mention all that clients. So it's an insane bargain at 20K, not bargain, it's an insane bargain at 20K. But I don't want to lap on for too long. You can just get this whole thing for free. I'm not going to drag this out any longer than it needs to be. This is all free. I'm not even joking. It's not crazy. Every guide that I just mentioned is available at school.com/1000xleads/about. You can just take it for free. So you can just take it all for free. The reason I'm doing this is because I'm kind of sick of people charging ridiculous amounts of money for information, and it could just be given away for free. Like, I just thought, screw that, I'll just give away as much info as they need completely for free. And then people that qualify for our main stuff can work with us on a one-to-one basis. But like I said, the only thing I don't want you to do is look at this opportunity to get all this free stuff and view it as less valuable because you're not paying for it. That would be very disappointing. So what I want you to do is go to school.com/1000xleads/about and just take all this stuff completely for free. I don't want you to see it as not valuable because you're not paying for it though. Like I said, very disappointing. You'd miss out on some great stuff, but also we slaved away for hundreds of hours to make this stuff really, really good. Like really good. So it's better than stuff I've personally bought for more than $10,000. Like I've bought stuff for 10K and then I put more effort into this than I bet those people put into that. This is straight to the money. So it's basically every skill you'd ever need just for free. Like all those frameworks, all those guides, all that stuff. Even if you never looked at 90% of the stuff, even one insight that you get from the paid ad system or the productivity system could be the key to your next phase of growth. And if you're thinking that sounds like a lot of work, it is a lot of work. But when you have your behavior and standards up to scratch, and you can complete the entire funnel in just a few hours or just a few months, over a few months, it's really like you can do it. Like you can get to $1 million a year in profit if you just do the right actions, you repeat the successful actions, and you stay focused and have the right habits. There's a reason a lot of stuff is there because it takes a lot of work to convert cold traffic into engaged leads and clients. If the prospect's never seen you before, your company, or they don't even know who you are, a lot of effort has to be put in. And that's why it's a lot of work. But the other thing is that it's a lot of one-time work. So for example, if you are setting up your lead magnets, it might take some work to start. But once you have done it, all you have to do is tweak them over time and keep them in the air. It takes a lot more effort to get this thing up and get your funnel up and running than it does to keep it running. All you want in the world, everything you want in the world is on the other side of a few lead magnets, a funnel, a couple of good emails, and a bit of content. And maybe that's, saying it's not that much work when it actually is. But the purpose of this is so you actually implement it. So you can just keep building it over time. And there is a reason that not everyone makes it, and this is it. I just don't want that reason to be that you don't have enough information. I know you probably don't need that much more information, but that's why we have the group as well. It's a free group, completely free. I think it's pretty undeniable that if you did all this stuff, it would be useful. So we have all that stuff available and this document available at school.com/1000xleads. So I would just go to that. It's completely free. There's really no downside to just seeing the roadmap and building towards it. So if you go to that, go to the top link in the description. I don't know if I'm going to put it in the description. Go to school.com/1000xleads. Sign up to my newsletter. You get the doc as well. And that's pretty much all I wanted to say.